American comics, starting with Superman. Welcome back, brave explorers of impossible worlds. We are excited to have you here to continue this odyssey together. Before we continue, everything you'll hear is pure fiction, so please don't try to replicate combat techniques at home. This wonderful story and all its rights belong to its brilliant original author. We are only the messengers of entertainment. Want another dose of adventure? Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single chapter, and if you can't wait, our Patreon has exclusive surprises you'll love. Chapter 26, Kidnapping Diana. Seeing Leah suddenly freeze, Diana nervously stretched his hand and asked softly, "Mr. Leah? What's wrong? Is there a problem?" "Sorry, something just occurred to me. Had only been on Earth for a short time. If she had been exposed to yellow sunlight like Clark from a young age, her cells would have remained dormant almost forever." "What are you going to do with her?" Diana asked. She wasn't averse to killing, especially against bad guys. It was for this reason that, in the Injustice parallel universe, Diana sided with the evil Superman. So, Leah calmly broke Flare-O's neck right in front of Diana's eyes and returned the kryptonite necklace to its lead box. The kryptonite's influence wore off, and Leah mentally re-equipped the Superman card into the main slot, while Diana's character card was the first card in the secondary slot. Instantly, Leah gained some of Diana's abilities, including various combat techniques, archery, horsemanship, and swordsmanship, and speed increased significantly. If you were to fight Flato or the burly Kryptonian warrior Jor-El again at this point, he would be no match for them in both strength and combat skill, perhaps even outmatching them. Leah felt his own strength and smiled. "I want to bury her on Paradise Island. Even if she's dead, her body will be a real problem. You can bury her in the northern part of the island. It's more hidden and less likely to be discovered." "Leah, I've already decided to leave here. Can you wait for me? I need to do something first." Diana looked at Leah expectantly. Leah could probably guess what Diana was up to. She was probably looking for equipment said to be capable of killing gods, such as the Sword of Vulcan, the Divine Shield, and the Divine Armor. The Sword of Vulcan was forged by the god of fire, Hephaestus, and could cut at the subatomic level. In Batman v Superman, Diana used it to sever Doomsday's calf. Some versions also translate it as the God-slaying sword. "No problem, it shouldn't take long for me. I'll find you once I'm done." With that, Leah, carrying Flare-O's body, gradually floated into the air, flying towards the north of the island. Diana stared at Leah in amazement, a strange glint in her eyes. "He can actually fly. Is Leah really a god?" Leah led them to the north of the island and casually uprooted a massive 500-year-old tree. He tossed Flare-O's body into it, then with a powerful swing, thrust the tree back into place. If this tree could absorb Flare-O's nourishment, it might become a spirit. Leah turned and flew away without hesitation. Meanwhile, Diana, swiftly dashing across the land, soon arrived at the Amazon's forbidden territory, the tower housing the Sword of Vulcan and the Divine Shield. The tower stood alone in the center of the island, devoid of ground, surrounded by a bottomless abyss, with only a heavily guarded bridge. Crossing the bridge was impossible. Diana knew her mother wouldn't allow her to leave, so she planned to borrow the Godslayer weapon. After she killed what she called Ares, actually General Zod, she would return it. Perhaps she would. Diana thought to herself. "Oh, gods. This is too high." Reaching the cliffs surrounding the tower, Diana peered into the abyss and felt a chill in her heart. If she fell, she would surely be crushed to pieces. "I can do it. I can definitely jump over it," Diana encouraged herself. Although she knew she possessed greater strength and leaping power than an average person, she had never leaped such a distance before. From the outer cliff to the tower, the distance was at least 300 or 400 meters. But Diana knew that killing Ares would require the use of a god-killing weapon, so she felt she had no choice. She retreated 500 meters and suddenly accelerated to run up. With a delicate cry, Diana, stepping onto the edge of the cliff, took a sudden leap of faith. Her figure traced an elegant parabola in the air, like a graceful swan, and touched the tower window. Whoosh! "I did it," Diana smiled broadly, and in that moment, it seemed as if the stars had lost their brilliance. She placed her right hand on the tower window and tried to flip herself through. Then, with a force, the stone on the window shattered under her force. What? Although she had read many books about males, Diana's first contact with a man filled her with excitement and a sense of anticipation. Leo tried to dispel the discordant thoughts in his mind. He embraced Diana and flew into the tower. The lasso of truth is on the top floor, the divine shield on the second floor, and the sword of Vulcan is at the bottom. Diana tried to calm herself by recounting the equipment distribution throughout the tower. Leo touched his nose, his hand still stained with Diana's body fragrance, and said, "Okay, I'll wait here, then, Mr. Li. Please wait a moment. I'll be back soon." Diana blushed and smiled shyly. Leo twitched his ears, glanced out the window, and said, "You better hurry. Your mother is bringing people here. Anyone has a book list for me, please help me add one." Chapter 27, Lex's Little Action. Metropolis, LexCorp. In the darkness of night, a black van bypassed the main entrance of LexCorp and drove directly into its underground laboratory through a secret entrance. 4 or 5 men had been waiting at the entrance, led by a bald young man, none other than Lex Luthor. "Have you got the goods? Have you attracted the attention of the authorities?" Lex asked as 3 men exited the van. A burly man emerged from the passenger seat and smiled at Lex. "Don't worry, boss. We've got the goods. As planned, we found a scapegoat, but now there's no evidence, so it can't be traced back to us." These men were LexCorp's private mercenaries, trusted by Lex for their exceptional skills. He moved to the back of the van, where the rear door had already opened. Inside was what Lex had described as cargo, a person wrapped in sackcloth, or rather, a corpse. Seeing his boss approach, one of the LexCorp mercenaries reached out and lifted the sack, revealing a pale face. "I can't believe this is an alien. He looks exactly like me and us. I saw a picture someone took in town yesterday. It's this guy. He can jump as high as a building, shatter walls with a punch, and he's invulnerable to weapons." What bullshit, invulnerability? How could he really die? In my opinion, the most powerful is still that vigilante called the Avengers. The people following Lex discussed the events of the previous day in town, the sudden appearance of the alien spacecraft and the widespread destruction. Although the incident was quickly suppressed by the local government, Lex Luthor had his own intelligence network. Although he wasn't in town at the time of the incident, he knew everything about the whole thing. While everyone else's attention was focused on the alien's immense power, Lex's gaze remained fixed on the wounds on the alien's body color of a deceased person. If it weren't for the large and small, hideous green wounds on his body, others would have thought he was asleep, not dead. "Get him to the lab immediately. I need you to figure out one thing for me. What killed him? The color of this wound reminds me of something familiar." Lex was well aware of the alien's power, and precisely because of this, he was even more eager to find out what killed him. "Meteorite, are you?" a female researcher in white asked. "Yes, it's the green meteorite," Lex said, watching the body being transported to his underground laboratory. Paradise Island. Diana was looting the tower's equipment, and at this moment, her mother Hippolyta, along with almost all the Amazon warriors, surrounded the tower. Leo slowly flew into the air, her arms folded over her chest, her gaze downward. "Hippolyta, you brought so many people here to see me off," Leah smiled. Queen Hippolyta, perched atop her warhorse, looked at Lee with a complex expression. "Mr. Lee, please allow me to address you as such. I have no right to interfere with your decision to stay or leave, but Diana must remain." Lee smiled and said, "Your Highness Hippolyta, I think you've misunderstood. You want Princess Diana to stay, but that shouldn't be addressed to me. You should be contacting Diana. You don't understand it all. She's very special. I can't let her leave here, Mr. Lee. I truly don't want things to get to this point." Queen Hippolyta instinctively placed her hand on the sword at her waist, stubbornly believing that Lee was trying to abduct Diana. And indeed, that seemed to be the case. Ares, the god of war, hadn't come to cause trouble. It was Zod, the Kryptonian. Lee, privy to some of the plot, had caused the restless Diana to connect the dots, and she impulsively decided to leave the island with Lee to maintain world peace. "I know Diana is special. We all know that. You, Zeus, right, Her Highness Hippolyta, did you really think you could keep this a secret from her forever? Did you really think you could let her escape her fate? Did you really think with your feeble abilities you could protect her forever? Don't be ridiculous." The surrounding Amazon warriors were bewildered and looked at each other in bewilderment. Queen Hippolyta, however, was completely stymied by Lee's utter lack of decency. First, regarding Diana's background, she was the illegitimate daughter of Queen Hippolyta and Zeus. This was a fact few knew, yet Lee had casually hinted at it. How could a mortal possibly know such things? So, in Hippolyta's mind, Lee was definitely connected to those on Mount Olympus, perhaps even the illegitimate child of that philandering god. Secondly, Queen Hippolyta couldn't help but agree with Lee's point of view. During the 100 years of Diana's adolescence, Hippolyta observed that Diana had transformed from a spoiled little girl into the island's strongest warrior. Even she had nothing to teach Diana. If danger ever came, it would definitely not be them who protected Diana, but Diana who would protect them. After a moment's silence, Queen Hippolyta seemed to have gone tightly through a fierce internal struggle. She clenched her hands and asked, "Can I trust you, Mr. Leah?" "You don't have to trust me, just trust Diana." Leah's words immediately sealed his retreat. By this time, Diana had donned her Wonder Woman armor, a shield of power in one hand, the sword of Vulcan in the other, and a golden lasso of truth at her waist. With a single leap, she leaped from the bottom of the tower to the roof. Looking at her mother and the dense crowd of Amazon warriors below, Diana struggled for a moment, but it was quickly replaced by determination. "I'm going, Mother. I'm going no matter what," she declared firmly. "The world's in danger of losing their lives. Those people are powerless to resist. I'm willing to fight for them. I must stand up and defeat General Zod and thwart Ares' plot. That's why I must go, Diana, but once you leave here, you may never come back." Queen Hippolyta sighed. "I know. Perhaps this is my fate." Diana turned and extended her hand to Lee. Seeing that the atmosphere was almost calm, Lee coughed lightly and said to Queen Hippolyta, "Your Highness, I left my friend's spaceship in your jungle. Please help keep it safe." With that, Lee pulled Diana into her arms. Under the gaze of the entire Amazon warriors, she suddenly took off into the air. With a sonic boom, she disappeared from sight. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28, Road Idiosyncrasies. The outer ring of Paradise Island was protected by a magical force field erected by Zeus. To outsiders, the area was perpetually shrouded in thick thunderclouds, making the island's existence undetectable even with modern instruments. Leah, Diana in his arms, flew through the dense clouds. The sky and earth returned to their normal colors, and the azure blue waters merged with the sky at the horizon. "Wow, so beautiful." Diana's eyes, glittering like gemstones, surveyed the boundless ocean in amazement. She was no stranger to the ocean, but only from the small world of Paradise Island. As Leah led her out of Paradise Island, Diana was instantly overwhelmed by the vastness of the ocean. "There's even more beautiful scenery, do you want to see it?" Leah ruffled Diana's hair with his free hand. Diana, eager for something more beautiful, didn't resist. Sure. Will you take me to see it?" Diana's eyes were filled with anticipation. At this moment, Diana had lost all trace of her Wonder Woman heroic demeanor. She looked more like a young girl who had never seen the world. In reality, she was a young, inexperienced girl. Even though she might be older than your great-great-great-grandmother, for a demigod, she was probably still in adolescence. Furthermore, she had been on Paradise Island since birth, and much of her knowledge came from books on the island. The books described the ocean as vast, but just how vast was it? Only those who saw it with their own eyes could truly understand. "Hold me tight, I'll take you to the sky." Leah wrapped his right arm around Diana, his left arm reaching over her head. As Diana wrapped her arms around Leah's neck, Leah instantly accelerated, soaring skyward with a sonic boom. After breaking through the ozone layer, Diana struggled to breathe, but she was a demigod after all, and with Leah's guidance, she quickly adapted to the high-altitude environment. "Look, isn't it even more beautiful here?" Leah whispered in Diana's ear. "It's amazing. I never imagined the world could be so big." Diana gazed up at the stars. Suddenly, she turned and gently kissed Leah's cheek. The cool touch felt like an electric shock, and Leah's heartbeat quickened. Looking down, he saw the woman in his arms blushing slightly, her head lowered as she looked down at the ground. "Oh my God, a woman actually kissed me." Leah was debating whether to execute Diana right there and then. Just as he was about to tremble, Diana raised her hand and pointed at a black dot in the sky. "Leah, what is that?" The black dot Diana pointed to wasn't actually a small object, but from such a great distance, it was just a speck. Leah narrowed his eyes, and the black dot in his field of vision rapidly magnified, transforming into the shape of a satellite. "It's the Lex Corporation satellite," Leah sighed awkwardly, and mentally took a deep note of Lex Corporation. He said helplessly to Diana, "Diana, we should go." Diana didn't know what a Lex Corp satellite was, but since it was Leah who said it was time to go, she naturally didn't object. "So where are we going now?" To find the remaining Zod's followers, Leah flew a great distance away, and when he heard Diana ask this question, he was suddenly stunned. "Yes. Where are we going? And, where the hell is he?" He was 10,000 meters above the ground, looking at the nearest piece of land below. "Damn, it's grassland and forest. Forgive my geography teacher for dying early." Leah couldn't tell from the terrain that it was a monsoon climate. So now he found himself tragically lost. Forget it. Just fly around. Diana couldn't tell he didn't know the way anyway. When he found a city, he could go down and ask for directions. Okay, that's what he did. Sure enough, Leah flew around the Earth 3 times, and Diana didn't notice anything unusual. As for satellite surveillance beyond Earth, unless Leah stood still, their resolution would only allow them to capture a blurry image. "What are those tiny dots on the ground?" "Beautiful." Diana pointed at a dazzling pattern of lights. Leah had descended to 5,000 meters, and from this point of view, he could see a vast, brightly lit city. "That's a human city. These lights are created for nighttime activities," Leah explained to Diana. Diana nodded thoughtfully. "Why do people still move around at night? I'm on Paradise Island, and I go to bed as soon as the sun sets, so you should experience the nightlife of the immortal cultivators. Let's go down and see." Leah looked down at the streets below. The people walking were all Americans, and the shops were all in American writing. He could pretty much confirm that this was a city in the United States, but he didn't know which one. He could ask for directions to the metropolis. Once he found the metropolis, he'd know the location of the town. Leah and Diana descended rapidly, appearing in a small alley. Diana stood at the entrance of the alley, gazing at the bustling streets outside, the vibrant lights and bustling crowds, her eyes filled with confusion and wonder. "What's that moving iron box?" she asked, pointing to a Mercedes sports car. "A sedan? That's a modern form of transportation. What about these people? Why are they dressed so strangely?" The question started Leah for a moment, and he realized that both he and Diana were wearing strange clothing. He was still wearing the alien uniform he'd found in Flareo's ship, while Diana was dressed as Wonder Woman, complete with Amazonian armor, a Vulcan sword in one hand, and a divine shield in the other. "It's not their clothes that are strange, it's ours. I'll have to teach you about modern things when I have time." Leah had nothing of value on him except a lead box containing a kryptonite necklace. Otherwise, he could have gone to a small street shop and bought some modern clothes. Footsteps sounded from the other side of the alley, and before Leah and Diana could turn to look, several people behind them whistled. "Why are these two dressed like this? Did the crew just get off work? Hey, I mean, this woman's pretty. She's just standing here, maybe picking up some private work. The uniform's alluring, I love it." Diana didn't understand the flirtatious words, but she hated the looks she received. Leah's face instantly turned cold, and he turned to look at the people behind him. Behind him stood 4 thugs dressed like the funeral Love family be posted tomorrow afternoon, and 4 more are already ready. If you have a book list, please add it. If you don't have a list, secretly recommending it would be great too. Chapter 29, A Green Vigilante. The thugs were completely unaware of what they were about to face. One of them, a white man with facial tattoos, pulled a fruit knife from his pocket. "Kid, get your bearings. There are 4 of us. Leave your wallet and get out." Diana, restlessly squeezing out from behind Leah, asked in confusion. "Leah, what do these people want?" "They want to bully us." Leah struggled to find a concise word. "Why are they bullying us?" "Oh, I know. They must be Ares' minions in the mortal realm." Diana's face was filled with sudden realization. The Vulcan sword in her hand instantly transformed into a flash of cold light, slashing at the white man with a fruit knife. Fruit knife versus divine weapon, Vulcan sword. The outcome was obvious. The thugs, amusingly, thought Diana was using a prop sword to strike, and they burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha, this girl is so funny, just using a prop sword to scare people. She's probably still engrossed in her work. Get this guy out of here." And then, hey, then, the next second, The fruit knife in the white man's hand seemed like mud before Diana's Vulcan sword, unable to even block it, and was instantly cut in half. Just kidding, Diana's Vulcan sword could even cut through Doomsday's skin. Lear really didn't know what in the world could stand up to it head-on. After severing the knife, the Vulcan sword didn't even pause, continuing forward, severing the white man's entire arm. Puff. Blood gushed out. After a brief pause, the man suddenly let out a shrill scream of terror. His companions were also dumbfounded. Holy shit. Holy shit. This is real. After severing one man's arm, Diana remained composed. Turning to the others, she declared righteously, "You've all been bewitched by Ares. To prevent you from bullying others, I must stop you." Then, she raised her sword and struck at the second man. No, no, no. I was wrong. Spare my life, help. There's a madman trying to kill someone. Where's the vigilante? Where's the hooded man? Help. Murder. The other three thugs scrambled to the other side, but could they outrun Diana? Perhaps they were still dreaming. With a light leap, Diana appeared 10 meters away, blocking the thug's path. She swung the Vulcan sword again, striking one of them. Lear looked at the thugs with amusement. As he had said, he couldn't tell whether this was a blessing or a curse. If they messed with me, at most I'd break a few bones and spend a year or two in the hospital, maybe even walk again. But if it were, I'd be sorry. Diana the Amazonian way by her mother since she was little, and she viewed war and death as normal as eating and drinking. Only after Diana came into contact with heroes like Batman and Superman who adhered to the no-kill principle would she become more restrained. Whoosh! A green arrow streaked through the air, striking the Vulcan sword in Diana's hand. With a clang, the Vulcan sword deflected slightly, missing the thug's body. Who? Lian looked Diana warily in the direction of the arrow. They saw a hooded man standing on the rooftop of the alley. He held a bow and arrow, fully drawn, aimed at Diana. It's the hooded man. No, Green Arrow, God bless you. I've never been so excited to see Green Arrow in my life. Green Arrow, help. These two are killing people. Paul's arm was chopped off. If there was one person these thugs hated the most, it would undoubtedly be the vigilante who suddenly appeared a year ago. The green-clad vigilante known as Green Arrow. But now, seeing Green Arrow was like seeing their father. No, even closer than seeing their father. Green Arrow didn't disappoint the three thugs who had just turned from haters to fans. He leaped directly from the roof, skillfully using the exterior stairs between floors to land on the ground. Watching them land so gracefully, Leah couldn't help but recall the first time she jumped from the third floor of the hospital. Ugh. I can't say any more, tears welled up in my eyes. You've let this city down. Green Arrow aimed his bow and arrow at Diana, who sheathed her Vulcan sword and raised the divine shield in her left hand. Seeing Diana's serious expression, Leah's mouth twitched. Her eyes clearly showed she was about to kill Green Arrow. She'd probably connected Green Arrow to some kind of Ares. Green Arrow, you're in danger, hero's life. But the Green Arrow wasn't impressed. I saw you assaulting people. Put down your weapons, Diana responded with a serious look. You've also been bewitched by Ares. Don't worry, I'll redeem your soul. Seeing the heated atmosphere, the thugs took the opportunity to get as far away as possible. After the thugs left, Green Arrow, in a desperate move, fired his second arrow at Diana. Diana snorted coldly. Arrow's entire family. Drawing a bow and shooting in front of her was like showing off one's prowess. It was just that Diana didn't have a powerful bow and arrow. Whoosh! Green Arrow pierced the air. Diana flicked her divine shield, deflecting the feeble arrow. Then, with another gentle leap, she soared dozens of meters into the air, brandishing her Vulcan sword and slashing down at Green Arrow. Arrow's eyes widened. He lifted his neck almost mechanically, even letting go of the bow he'd drawn, and muttered a few words unconsciously. Wah. Fuck. Before tonight, Green Arrow's classmates remembered that the world record for the standing high jump was 1.75 meters. What did jumping 1.75 meters mean? On a basketball court, that person could literally dunk over a 1.75 meter man. But what did Green Arrow see tonight? A woman, or girl, leaping 20 meters from a flat jump without even a running start. Could she fly? Green Arrow felt sick. But what made him even more desperate was that Diana's sword was almost in front of him. What kind of monster are you? He cursed fiercely and immediately rolled over to avoid it. He dodged the fatal sword, but Diana raised her foot and kicked Green Arrow in the chest. Disappointment. Is he really a man? Why is he so weak? Today's recommendation, 2 additional chapters, that means there will be 4 chapters today. Chapter 30, Oliver Queen. Green Arrow's heart was broken, his entire worldview shattered. With immense difficulty, he climbed to his feet, pulled out 2 smoke bombs, and prepared to perform a missed escape. But before he could drop them, Diana, using her speed, had grabbed Green Arrow's wrist. With a slight push, Green Arrow grimaced in pain. Is that all your strength? Such a weakling of Ares? Diana despised this grown man, unable to even break a single hand. Green Arrow was practically vomiting blood in rage, feeling like all his training had gone to waste. A warrior should be killed, not humiliated. He angrily declared, I don't know who Ares is. I'm not Ares's man. If you want to kill me, do it now. Naturally, he didn't associate Ares with some mythical deity, but rather thought Star City had seen another villain nicknamed Ares. Leah coughed softly. After all, Green Arrow would be a member of the Justice League in the future, and he couldn't stand by and watch Diana kill him. Stop, Diana, he's not a bad guy. I think he's just been deceived by those bad guys. Diana slowly loosened her grip, gave Green Arrow a suspicious look, then sheathed her sword and shield and walked over to Leah's side. Green Arrow, clutching his ribs, which had been cracked by Diana's kick, asked in frustration, Who are you? You can call me an Avenger, and this one is Wonder Woman. Leah looked at the newly appeared character profile of Oliver Queen on the friendship system interface, revealing that their friendship was negative, indicating dislike. He felt a surge of injustice. It was Diana who hit you, okay? You can just hate her. Why do you hate me? Green Arrow seemed unsatisfied with this answer. He continued to question, why does she have superpowers? Could it be Mirakuru? Mirakuru is a biological agent that Green Arrow discovered in a World War II Japanese submarine while stranded on Inferno Island. Mirakuru, a play on the American word for miracle, is a true pun. After injection, anyone who survives death gains immense powers and becomes a superhuman. Deathstroke, one of Green Arrow's archenemies, was injected with Mirakuru, becoming a cyborg. In Green Arrow's view, Mirakuru is the only explanation. Furthermore, cyborgs suspected of being Mirakuru injected have recently appeared in Star City. Leah shook her head and said, Oliver Queen, your perspective is too narrow. This world holds many powers you cannot comprehend. If you keep seeing things from an ordinary perspective, you'll never be able to keep up with the times. Soon, Zod will brazenly invade Earth. He's no match for the 2 small fry he encountered. By then, the entire world will know of the existence of aliens, and superpowers will emerge in an endless stream, bringing panic to humanity time and time again. When Green Arrow heard Leah say his name, his expression instantly turned grim. He subconsciously tightened his grip on his bow and arrow, demanding, Why do you know my name? What exactly do you want to do? Don't worry, I just saw it from the work badge on your chest, Leah said, pointing at Green Arrow's chest. Nonsense, Green Arrow didn't believe Leah at all. He did have a Quinn Enterprises work ID, which he had brought with him to the meeting that afternoon. However, the badge was hidden under his clothes, so how could the man see knowing Green Arrow wouldn't believe him? Leah continued, I have X-ray vision. Not only can I see your badge, but I can also see that approximately 20% of your body is covered in scars. Your back and arms are severely burned. And with that kick just now, you have 14 fractures that haven't fully healed yet. I have to say, Mr. Oliver, you are truly remarkable as a human being. Do you have superpowers? You can see through my clothes. Green Arrow's face suddenly turned strange as he considered this possibility, because what Leah said perfectly matched his physical condition. Not just clothes, I can see your flesh, your bones, your cells, Leah said, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. What's your purpose in coming to Star City? Green Arrow had never felt so frustrated. Facing Leah and Diana, unable to defeat them, and with his identity completely exposed, he even began to worry. If these 2 were villains, how could he possibly stop them? Leah glanced at Diana, then turned to Green Arrow and said, Our purpose? If I said we were just passing by and just wanted to ask for directions or buy some clothes to fit in, would you believe me? Green Arrow instinctively shook his head, but then he thought, there was no need for Leah to lie. Seeing Green Arrow's distrust, Leah continued, Indeed, it is, Mr. Oliver. If you can help me find some clothes and tell me which direction Metropolis is, we'll leave immediately. Green Arrow pondered for a moment, then said, All right, both of you, Please follow me. He drew his bow and shot an arrow with an elastic cord. Then, pressing a button on the bow, the cord instantly retracted, and he soared onto the roof. Looking down, Leah and Diana exchanged a glance, then both leaped lightly to Green Arrow's side. Green Arrow was speechless. It was truly frustrating to compare yourself to others. It hurt. Let's go, he called, quickly disappearing into the night. Leah and Diana followed. The three of they traversed the rooftops of Star City. Leah had initially assumed that Green Arrow's cracked ribs would slow him down, but it turned out that this jungle master, who had survived in the wilderness of Purgatory Island for 3 years, didn't take such a minor injury seriously. Green Arrow, or rather, Oliver Queen, had practically reached the limits of what a mortal could achieve. This was why his Pracadex was elite blue, not the white of a mortal. Oliver Queen led Leah and Diana to a bar in an abandoned factory. The bar was ostensibly run by Oliver's sister, Thea Queen, but in reality, it was a covert operation. The basement had long been converted into Green Arrow's secret base. Through a hidden elevator, Leah and Diana were taken to his base. At this moment in Green Arrow's base, a young blonde was busy operating a computer. She heard footsteps behind her and said without turning back, "How is the patrol today, Felicity?" "I brought 2 people with me." Oliver Queen took off Green Arrow's clothes, revealing his true appearance. Hearing Oliver's words, Felicity's rapidly typing hands suddenly paused, and she turned around as if she had seen a ghost. "Oh my God, who are they, Oliver? Is it really okay for you to tell them your true identity?" Chapter 31, Team Arrow. Almost all heroic teams have a computer-savvy expert who works behind the scenes. The exquisitely looking blonde girl in front of him is none other than Felicity, the watcher behind Team Arrow. In reality, Team Arrow currently consists of 4 members, Felicity and Oliver, along with Dougal, the Spartan, and Sarah Lance, the White Canary. It just so happens that neither of them is at the base today. "Hi, Felicity." "Hello. My name is Lee Rogers, and this is my friend, Diana Prince." Lee stepped forward enthusiastically and shook Felicity's hand. Diana followed suit, extending her hand and shaking Felicity's. Oliver Queen, standing nearby, stared at Lee with wide eyes, even a hint of anger. "You just didn't want to tell me your true identity," Leah shrugged nonchalantly. "Come on, you were just trying to shoot me with an arrow." Oliver slapped his forehead, wondering who had just killed whom. Felicity also noticed something fishy going on between the 3 of them. Maintaining a stiff smile, she asked, "I'm curious what happened between you two." "Nothing. Absolutely nothing happened between us." Oliver forced a frustrated smile. He didn't want Felicity to know that he'd been beaten to a pulp by a woman. It was a dark story. "Yes, Felicity, if you don't mind, could you get Diana and me 2 uniforms? We're still wearing our vigilante uniforms." Leah placed a hand on Oliver's shoulder, and Oliver, to allay Felicity's suspicions, let Leah do what she wanted. "Okay, I'll get them some clothes." Felicity looked puzzled, but she went to the base's storage room and pulled out 2 brand new sets of clothes. After Felicity left, Oliver said to Lee and Diana in a serious tone, "Let's just pretend what happened today never happened." Lee and Diana exchanged a smile and said, "No problem, because Team Arrow often gets injured while on missions. They keep a stock of emergency clothing at base for emergencies. Most of these clothes are Quinn Enterprises uniforms, suitable for both men and women." They each went to the break room to change. Lee instantly transformed back into a high school student, while Diana transformed from a dashing warrior into a sleek, career-defining goddess. "Wow, you look absolutely stunning." Felicity couldn't help but marvel at Diana's beauty. Diana's stunning beauty could tempt even other women to become lesbians. Oliver tended to his injuries, then changed into his usual suit. He sat at the table. His expression softened slightly, and he stared at Lee and Diana and asked, "Can you tell me who you are now?" Lee had a deep respect for Oliver Queen, or rather, the Green Arrow. As a hero without any superpowers, yet still fearlessly carrying out his vigilante work, he accomplished many things that ordinary people couldn't. "It's okay to tell you our identities, but you have to be mentally prepared and believe that this world has infinite possibilities. If you don't, you'll think I'm talking nonsense," Lee said seriously. Oliver recalled Diana beating him like a chicken. He sighed heavily and said, "Okay, I'm mentally prepared. Speaking of my identity, I have to mention a brother. And that brother's story begins with a 10-meteor shower that struck our town years ago." Lee briefly told Oliver and Felicity about aliens, or Kryptonians, and how there are indeed what you're saying is incredible. Powerful aliens, humans with extraordinary powers. I always thought this world was scientific. Oliver didn't question Leah's words. After all, he'd witnessed Diana soar 20 meters into the air with a single leap. Could an ordinary person do that? Obviously not. Who told you that possessing mystical powers isn't scientific? Leah retorted. It's just that most humans have never seen the true face of this world. I have a question. Felicity raised her hand, gave Diana a dry laugh, and asked, Diana, have you really lived for hundreds of years? As far as I can remember, my mother has forget 240 years. Diana is immortal. Even if she lived until the earth exploded, she'd still be this young, Leah said. Felicity's heart sank after hearing this, her eyes filled with envy and jealousy. As the four of them chatted, an alarm suddenly sounded on the control panel. Felicity and Oliver immediately realized something was amiss. It's Quinn Enterprises, Oliver. There's been a break-in at Quinn Enterprises' Applied Sciences Division, Felicity said to Oliver after checking the computer. A break-in? And it's in my Applied Sciences Division. Oliver looked incredulous. Although he was the CEO of Quinn Enterprises, he rarely dabbled in company affairs. Even so, he knew his company's security shouldn't be this poor. A ring rang. It was Oliver's phone. He picked up, and the voice of his personal bodyguard, Diggle, came through. Oliver, our Department of Applied Sciences was robbed. I just got the news. What was lost? Don't know for the time being. The iron door of the warehouse was smashed through and 2 employees on duty were killed. I don't know what was lost specifically. Do you want to come and have a look? Okay, you go first. I'll be there soon. After Oliver hung up the phone, he instructed Felicity, I'll go over there. Please help entertain Leah and Diana. It's late today. If you like, you can stay in Star City for one night. P.S. I would like to clarify that the plot will refer to American TV series and movies to a certain extent, but it will not follow the rhythm of American TV series and movies completely. Therefore, if it feels different from the plot of American TV series and movies, please allow me to use a parallel universe to explain all the problems. There will be one more update in the evening, and please collect the 4th update. Chapter 32, The Flash of the Future. Oliver, you're still injured. Let me go with you, Leah asked Oliver. It wasn't that Leah wanted to go with Oliver, but he suddenly remembered a version of Green Arrow he had seen in his past life. It seemed that it was during a robbery at Quinn Enterprises that Oliver's team met the Flash. Or rather, Barry Allen before he became the Flash. Oliver wanted to say that he had already briefly treated the rib injury and it was no problem, but when Diana heard about the robbery, her sense of justice could no longer be suppressed and burned. I want to go too. That person must have been bewitched by Ares. I have to, Diana. Not all bad guys can be related to Ares, okay? Leah felt that the god of war Ares was also an unwitting scapegoat, and inexplicably, countless scapegoats were asked to take the blame. However, Diana disagreed with Leah's point. She argued righteously, why not him? My mother told me that Ares is the source of all evil in the world, the one who sowed lies, deception, and war among humanity. What should she do? Her words made such a sense that Leah was at a loss for words. Was this the legendary middle school girl who would bring your intelligence down to her level and then defeat you with her vast experience? Fine, as long as you're happy, Leah sighed helplessly, admitting defeat. Felicity's eyes flickered between Leah and Diana. Wow, Diana, are you talking about Ares, the god of war from Greek mythology? Omega, you said your people have lived from the mythical era to this day. You wouldn't recognize any gods from Greek mythology, would you? Leah smiled faintly, thinking that Amazons knew more than just gods. Diana's mother, Hippolyta, the queen of the Amazons, had slept with Zeus, the king of the gods. Upon hearing Felicity's interest in Ares, Diana happily recounted his crimes. Oliver, standing at the door, watched the 2 girls chatting happily, feeling incredibly exhausted. He rubbed his brow and snapped, enough. Okay. I'll take you there, everyone, let's go. Along the way, the CEO of Quinn Consolidated Enterprises served as the driver. Lee sat in the passenger seat, and Diana and Felicity sat in the back seat, surprisingly engaging in conversation. Diana recounted some dark stories about the gods from the Age of the Gods. She had heard them from her mother, Hippolyta, though the veracity of these stories remains to be determined. Felicity covered her mouth with her hands, exclaiming Omega. Omega, the entire way. Soon, arrived at the crime scene. Oliver's personal bodyguard, Diggle, nicknamed Spartan, was already waiting at the warehouse everyone entrance. Diggle was a black man with military experience. He was strong and skilled in various combat techniques. Upon seeing Oliver's car, he immediately got in and was surprised to see Leah and Diana also get out. Who are these two? Diggle noticed that Leah and Diana were both wearing Quinn Enterprises uniforms, but he was certain he had never seen them before. At least not around Oliver. Diggle, this is Mr. Leah, and this is Ms. Diana. They're my, friends, Oliver introduced. Hi, everyone. My name is Diggle, and I'm Oliver's personal bodyguard. Although Diggle smiled, his confusion remained undimmed. Oliver's friends? If he hadn't seen Oliver and Felicity standing right before him, he would have thought it was a code word for help. After Leah and Diggle got to know each other, they all entered Quinn Enterprises' Applied Science Department. This was actually a large warehouse, but the main door had been broken open in the direction of Leah and Diana. The leading sergeant, Quentin Lance, overheard Oliver's question and casually said, "It could have been a truck or a crane. I think there must have been 4 or 5 people coordinating, and given the speed of their evacuation, this must have been a premeditated operation. Where's the surveillance footage? The surveillance cameras in this warehouse should have captured some useful information." Felicity pointed to the camera mounted however on top of the warehouse. The camera had been shot, completely blowing out the front end. Sheriff Lance waved to a police officer at the scene, and the man came over holding a tablet and said, "Judging from the footage before the surveillance was destroyed, a man killed the 2 guards on duty first, but he must have accomplices, who may have bypassed the surveillance from another direction. They still believe that the person who invaded the warehouse was definitely not one person. After all, in the eyes of normal people, it is impossible for one person to break through a titanium alloy door, knock out the guards on duty, and then steal something inside in a very short time. Actually, it's just one person." A man emerged from the warehouse. He was about 1.8 meters tall, handsome, and dressed in a brown coat. Upon seeing him, Sergeant Lance's brow furrowed. He asked, "Who are you?" "I don't recall you being on the force. I'm with the Central City Police Department's on-site investigation team. There's a similar case in Central City with some unexplained details, so my superiors sent me here." Leah stared at the boy before her. Her clairvoyant eyes spotted a copy of the Science and Technology Expo magazine in his bag. The cover headline read, "Is the particle collider in the cutting-edge research laboratory safe?" So, the particle collision test hadn't exploded yet, and the Barry Allen standing before him hadn't yet become the Flash. Sergeant Lance, remembering Barry's words about the single criminal, asked, "So, you think someone could have easily gotten through that door?" The door, naturally, was the warehouse's titanium alloy door. "Yes, it must be a very strong man," Barry said very confidently, and he produced the corresponding evidence. "It takes about 1,250 feet of torque to break a person's neck." Used one hand. He saw that the expressions of several people present seemed to believe what he said. He stared at Oliver, Diana and Leah very seriously and said with a very serious expression, "I don't think you know how difficult it is to break a person's neck." Oliver raised his eyebrows and showed a blank expression. Yes, we don't know how to break someone's neck at all." Leah was worried that Diana would be exposed here, and immediately echoed Oliver and said, Yes, I don't know either. We don't know." The 4th update is here, and by the way, I am asking for a book list and recommendation votes. Chapter 33, Eris takes the blame. Sheriff Lance still refused to believe Barry, but he lacked better evidence to support his point, so he changed the subject. "Oliver, I need a complete inventory so we can compare and figure out exactly what you've lost." Leah pointed to a relatively empty area on the other side, save for a small concrete mound. "I think that's what a thief stole." Everyone looked over. The concrete mound contained 6 thick steel bars, all showing signs of breaking. Sheriff Lance had led his men through this area before, but they hadn't considered anything stolen. After all, it was impossible to remove anything without a cutting machine and a forklift. Barry Allen looked at Leah approvingly and explained quickly, "Yes, it's right there. It's an industrial centrifuge, Quinn United's dual-cable Type 900 centrifuge. It has 3 fixed brackets." He led everyone to the small mound that Leah pointed to a broken steel bar and said, "Look at this fracture surface. It is very likely fracture surface that the thief pulled them off. This series of damaged marks on the ground looks like footprints. So according to Barry's inference, It is very likely that the thief carried the centrifuge directly out of the door. Leah looked along the broken marks on the ground. As he said, it was a series of cracks that looked like footprints, extending all the way to the door. This time, Barry looked at Lee with a look of profound surprise. He took the initiative to greet her, saying, "Yes, what's your name? Do you have experience as a CSI, crime scene investigation?" Lee smiled, shook Barry's hand, and said, "My name is Lee Rogers. My uncle is also a sheriff." Hearing that Lee's uncle was a sheriff, everyone was instantly relieved. This was simply common sense, like the idea that a doctor's son, even if he's not very good, should still know how to treat patients. As Lee and Barry Allen shook hands, another character appeared card in his mind system interface, Barry Allen's. Since Barry was just an ordinary person at this point, his card was white. Despite his extraordinary knowledge in certain areas, it didn't change the fact that he was just a white card. It seems that ordinary people are basically white cards. Only those whose strength reaches the limit of ordinary people are considered blue cards. Superpowered beings probably also have their strength determined, but the lowest level for superpowered beings is probably blue, while some powerful beings may even reach the level of purple, and people like Superman and Wonder Woman start with purple cards, and when their strength reaches its peak, they will become gold legendary cards. Leah secretly analyzed the card level settings. In fact, the level of the card corresponds to the level of strength. For example, Leah himself, even if he had to remove the Superman and Wonder Woman cards, his basic strength had long surpassed the limits of ordinary people, reaching elite level. Just as he was thinking, Diana suddenly touched Leah's arm and said mysteriously, "I know who did it. The one who could make a human do such a thing must be Ares." "Yes, it must be Ares, we all know." Leah, Oliver, and Felicity all gave a look of "we understand, please stop talking." Barry's claim that this was a superpowered thief challenged everyone present. If Diana had been allowed to go and tell them about Ares, the god of war, encouraging evil, Sheriff Lance would have sent her to a mental hospital on the spot. Despite Barry's numerous proofs, Sheriff Lance and his colleagues found it hard to believe that someone could lift a 2-ton industrial centrifuge with their bare hands unless they saw it with their own eyes. There has to be another explanation. There's no way someone in this world could possess such terrifying strength. Sheriff Lance refused to believe Barry's words. The police then withdrew, leaving Felicity and the others behind to assist Barry in the investigation. Diggle had someone compare the Applied Science Department's inventory and confirm that the only missing item was the industrial centrifuge. Felicity then hacked into the traffic network and captured footage from the surveillance camera across the block showing the alarm being deactivated. The footage showed a man in black jackets hoisting the 2-ton industrial centrifuge onto his shoulders and slowly loading it into the trunk of a truck. God, if I hadn't known the actual weight of that thing, I'd have thought he was carrying a piece of plastic, Diggle declared, his perspective shattered. Oliver and Felicity looked back and forth strangely between Lee and the surveillance footage, as if trying to determine if they were the same person. I scanned the city's traffic surveillance based on the make of this car, and guess what I found? It just robbed a blood bank 30,000 milliliters of O-negative blood, Felicity said rapidly. Barry continued his analysis, with so much blood, if there aren't dozens of people waiting for massive surgeries, there can only be one use for it, to grow something. Barry's guess was actually pretty close. Oliver and Lee, present, knew that Deathstroke was trying to mass-produce Miraculous, a potion that grants supernatural powers, but the success rate is extremely low. Out of 100 people injected, fewer than 5 survive, and those who do survive will become violent, irritable, and mentally distorted due to the potion. I think we should notify Sheriff Lance immediately, Barry urged, seeing the crowd's apparent indifference. He worried the robber might just get away, so he did. Oliver instinctively loosened his tie and waved at Barry. Don't worry about that. I'll take care of it. Felicity will assist you with the follow-up. I have things to do, so I'll be leaving now. He naturally wanted to transform into Green Arrow and capture the robber. But, aside from Oliver's injuries, the man had already smashed open the titanium door with his bare hands. He'd been injected with a biochemical Miraculous, granting him super strength, making him no longer an ordinary human, but a metahuman. Green Arrow was powerful, but facing a metahuman single-handedly while injured was a bit risky. Leah stopped Oliver. Can you do this? Do you want me to help you? I've been injured worse than this, Leah. It's getting late. Take Diana and get some rest. I can handle it, Oliver said. All right, Since Oliver had said so, Leah could only watch remotely. But when he looked around for Diana, he found she was gone. Shit. I was wondering why I didn't hear her continue to criticize Ares. It seems she's gone on her own. Leah's forehead was instantly covered in sweat. Chapter 34, Beating Up the Enhanced Man. But Leah quickly pondered another question. Does this girl even know the way? She has no idea where the criminals are. A girl who just hours ago lived in the age of gods, suddenly found herself in a modern human city. Who knows what she'd do? So, Oliver pursued the robbers while Leah went searching for Diana. Outside the fifth ring road of Star City, it was already late at night, and traffic was noticed dwindling. A white van, with the accelerator pedal to the floor, sped along, a gust of wind whistling through the air. The most striking feature of this van wasn't its breakneck speed, but the fact that the driver's door was missing. The marks on the door suggested it had likely been ripped off. This vehicle was the one used by the Quinn Enterprises robbers. Felicity had analyzed its route, so Oliver, riding a motorcycle, positioned himself directly in its path. Got you. Facing a speeding truck, Oliver didn't dare to engage head-on. He fired an arrow tied to a bungee cord at the truck and then leaped onto it. The driver spun the steering wheel, attempting to throw Oliver off the roof. This wasn't the first time Oliver had faced someone trying to throw him off a vehicle. After stabilizing himself, he skillfully slid into the passenger seat, bow drawn, and pointed at the truck driver, saying, "You've failed me, get out." The truck driver, without even a glance at him, swung his fist, slamming into Oliver. This seemingly light blow felt like a tremendous force. Oliver folded his hands, trying to block it, but the immense force ripped him and the door down with it. Fortunately, he'd experienced the painful experience of Diana fracturing 2 ribs before, so the blow didn't completely stun Oliver. Fortunately, he had the smashed car door under him, so he finally came to a stop after sliding down the road for a while. Oliver pressed the earpiece in his ear, suppressing the urge to cough up blood. Ahem. Green arrow calling watchers, operation aborted. A moment later, Felicity's voice rang through the earpiece. Watchers received. The Avengers have found Wonder Woman. They're heading in your direction and will rejoin you shortly. It wasn't surprising that Leah could find Diana so quickly. After all, he possessed supervision and super hearing. He could simply fly up into the sky and scan the entire city, spotting Diana, out of her uniform and back in her Wonder Woman costume. It wouldn't be a stretch. However, Oliver struggled to understand the phrase "they'll rejoin you shortly." He admitted that Diana and Leah were moving quickly, but how could they have outpaced the truck? By the time they reached them, the criminals would have already vanished. I repeat, the operation has failed. I'm going back. Before he could finish the second half of his sentence, a sudden boom echoed from the sky. Oliver looked up, bewildered, and saw a black speck rapidly approaching. What was that? A bird? Or a plane? Holy crap! It was Leah. Leah, holding Diana in his arms. Oliver's face turned green. He had accepted that humans could lift 2 tons, that some could achieve immortality, living from the age of the gods to this day, and even that you could leap over 20 meters right in his presence. Oliver, leaving him disheveled. Well, Leah was afraid to say too much at once and scare these fragile mortals, so he kept his details brief and concise, barely mentioning any of his own abilities. After catching up with the truck in midair, Leah threw Diana to the ground, then plummeted to the ground, blocking the truck. A man in a black bodysuit suddenly appeared in front of the truck. The thug in the truck grinned fiercely and ran over Leah without slowing down, seemingly about to crush her into a meat patty. Leah, be careful. Get out of the way. Oliver, witnessing this, immediately climbed to his feet, enduring the excruciating pain. He instinctively wanted to draw his bow and shoot the truck's tires, but he quickly realized the truck was too far away. Given the speed of the arrow, he wouldn't be able to save Leah in time. The next second, the truck crashed into Leah. Oliver closed his eyes, a wave of regret welling up in his heart. Boom. A series of rumbling sounds startled Oliver open his eyes, but the scene before him left him speechless. The speeding truck seemed to have collided with a steel pillar, its entire front end dented, like a blower stretched to its limit. The rear end, inertia, flung it high into the air, rolling sideways across the road for dozens of meters before coming to a stop. Oh, holy shit. Oh my god, what happened? Oliver felt his brain running out of steam. He couldn't imagine anything that could have caused such catastrophic damage to a truck. Just then, he saw Leah, still standing in the middle of the road. From the moment the truck struck him to the moment it was dented and rolled away, Leah had stood there, his arms folded across his chest, motionless. At that moment, the corners of Oliver's mouth began to twitch uncontrollably. Roar! From inside the dented truck, the man injected with Mirakuru roared, forcing himself to rip the dented truck apart and dashing out onto the road. After all, he was a humanoid, such an impact wouldn't kill him. The moment Diana saw the gangster, she rushed forward and punched him in the face. You're looking for death, little girl. In this situation, the gangster didn't give much thought to why the truck had overturned. The pain had made him lose his mind, especially seeing a beautiful, somewhat unruly girl trying to hide him, and he immediately lost all thoughts. He reached out to Diana, intending to grab her and have a hostage, a guarantee for his escape or anything else. But when his face made direct contact with Diana's fist, he realized he was wrong, and wrong in a big way. With a loud bang, the gangster was thrown to the ground at a 90-degree angle, his head hitting the ground hard, cracking the concrete road. Leah was not to be outdone. The bad guys had been dealt with by Diana, so why was he standing there? He absolutely couldn't. Leah then charged in with a few more punches. Even though he was controlling his strength, he still managed to beat the Mirakuru-injected augmented human to pulp, unable to survive. Oliver wailed inwardly. That was a Mirakuru-injected augmented human. Someone who could lift 2 tons with ease. Hey, are you guys really going to beat him half to death so easily? Give him some life. Everyone on this website, please give it a 5-star rating, thank you. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35, Oliver's Invitation. Especially when Oliver recalled the scene where he was knocked down by the opponent with a punch, he finally spat out the blood he had been holding back. He didn't know if the world had changed, or if he had just grown old. In short, Oliver was really exhausted. The brutal beating didn't last too long, mainly because Leah was worried that he would accidentally kill the opponent. After all, this enhanced human was still a little too weak to withstand the beating. When Leah brought the gangster to Oliver, he found that he was vomiting blood, so he asked with concern, Oliver, you are injured, do you want me to take you to the hospital? No problem, no problem. The most important thing now is to get something useful out of this guy. You didn't beat him to death, did you? Although Oliver knew that the vitality of the enhanced human should not be so weak, who knew these two people? In their hands, no matter how strong the vitality is, it will be useless. He's not dead, he's not dead. I can see his heart is beating again. Don't worry, Leah said, patting his chest, as if speaking with a clear conscience. Oliver knew Leah's first ability was X-ray vision. As long as the augmented person survived, Oliver didn't want to bother with anything else. Ding. Friendship level increased to friendly. Unlocking Oliver Queen character card, a system notification chimed in Leah's head, surprising him. He hadn't expected Oliver's favorability towards him to reach friendly after capturing the augmented person. When they'd first met, he'd been disgusted. But on second thought, it wasn't impossible. Judging from what had just happened, if he hadn't intervened, the augmented person would have definitely escaped. Oliver had already begun to suspect Mirakuru had reappeared in Star City. Previously, he had lacked evidence, but now that the augmented person had appeared before him, Oliver was almost certain of his suspicions. Everything involving Mirakuru could be traced back to Oliver's 5 years on Purgatory Island, so he was grateful to Leah for helping him capture the augmented person. Leah didn't bother to intervene in the aftermath. Oliver simply wanted to interrogate the augmented person's identity and the mastermind behind the incident. Given the current situation, Leah could roughly guess that the mastermind behind this was Deathstroke. There are many versions of the character Deathstroke in the DC universe. If he appears in Arrow City, he's likely an Australian-born former ACIS agent who was once stranded on Lich Island with Oliver. He was later injected with Mirakuru, becoming a powerful augmented being. Initially a friend of Oliver, he later turned evil for some reason and now appears in Star City seeking revenge. Oliver, unaware of this, plans to take the augmented being back and interrogate him personally. As for Leah and Diana, Oliver specifically instructed Felicity to book 2 presidential suites at a luxury hotel just for them. You heard right. 2. I wonder if he did this intentionally or deliberately. How could you be so inconsiderate? In this situation, even if all the hotels in Star City were empty, they'd still say there was only one king-size room left, so you two should just make do with it for the night. That's the right approach, okay? Leah had a terrible sleep that night. The next day, in the hotel restaurant, Leah and Diana were explaining the difference between hamburgers and sandwiches when Oliver, dressed in a sharp suit, approached, beaming at them expression. "It seems we've tracked down something," Leah asked, glancing at Oliver with a look of deep resentment. Oliver nodded, then shook his head. "We've found a lead. The man's name is Cyrus Gold. Remember the Miracuro I told you about, down her cutlery? Then we should catch him and stop him." "I'm afraid it's not that simple. First the industrial centrifuge, then the large amount of blood. I suspect someone is trying to mass-produce Miracuro. Of course, their attempt failed this time, but I don't think they'll stop," Oliver said. Leah glared at Oliver. "So, you mean, you want us to help you find the mastermind?" "No, I'll find them myself, but I suspect they have more augmented beings. I hope you'll be my backup then." This was Oliver's invitation. After all, when it came to augmented beings, Oliver believed he could defeat them one-on-one, but if there were more than two, his position would be very dangerous. At least for now, Team Arrow didn't have the strength to take on a large group of augmented beings. Without waiting for Leah's reply, Diana agreed. "No problem. If you have any problems, feel free to come to us. We'll be happy to help." Leah slapped his forehead. He had originally planned to use this opportunity to make a killing from Oliver. After all, he was the CEO of Quinn Consolidated Enterprises, a wealthy man ranked high on the Forbes rich list. If he didn't get a few $1,000s out of him, Leah would feel unworthy of Oliver's worth. But this girl, driven by her noble virtue of bravery and willingness to help, ended up serving as this guy's free thug. "Oliver, I have a favor to ask of you. You know Diana's identity. She's currently an illegal immigrant in the United States. Can you get her an ID?" This wouldn't be easy for ordinary people, but for someone like Oliver, it was incredibly simple. Even if he asked Felicity to help, she could easily hack into the government network and create a decent ID for Diana. There were many ways to do this, depending on Oliver's thinking. "No problem, let me know Diana's identity. Is her name Diana Prince? I remember you mentioned that to me." Oliver agreed readily. Leah nodded. "Yes, Diana Prince." After chatting for a while, there was a clang of tableware being knocked over at the restaurant door, and a young man barged in recklessly. He knocked over everything and apologized all the way. Glancing around, he spotted Leah's table and immediately ran over. "Mr. Leah, I finally found you." "Oh, Mr. Oliver, you're here too." The man sat across from Leah with a familiar air, hands, his eyes flicking from Oliver to Leah, words lingering. "Barry, why are you here? What do you want from me?" This man was Barry Allen, the future Flash, whom Leah had met yesterday at Quinn Enterprises' Applied Sciences Department. He had no idea why he'd suddenly come looking for him today. P.S. In previous chapters, many readers responded that Green Arrow had long known about the existence of superpowered people, so he shouldn't have been so surprised when he saw Diana jump more than 20 meters high. In the American TV series, Green Arrow does know many superpowered people, but the author just wants to say one thing: even if he knew that superpowered people existed, why wouldn't he be surprised? Green Arrow thought he was meeting two ordinary people, but one of them turned out to be like a cheat. He would definitely be surprised. According to the setting in this book, superpowered people in this time period did not appear. It was not until Barry became the Flash and General Zod came to Earth that superpowered people appeared on the streets. Therefore, including the later part, there is no principled setting involved, and the explanation in this book is the main one. In addition, don't ask any more, the Wonder Woman in this book has never left Paradise Island and has never been in love. If you ask again, commit suicide. That's all. Chapter 36, Barry Allen. Barry Allen looked at Oliver awkwardly, then spoke slowly. "I have a personal matter I'd like to ask Mr. Leah for help." Oliver smiled faintly, understanding Barry's meaning, and stood up. "Then you two can chat first. I'll be back at the office." "Leah, I'll quickly take care of what you asked me to do." Oliver bowed slightly, then pulled an envelope from his chest and placed it in front of Leah. "Leah, please, this is for you, accept it." Leah glanced inside the envelope with her X-ray vision. It was a bank card, and she couldn't help but smile. This Oliver was quite worldly wise. It was offered to her, So why not? Even a wealthy company like Quinn Enterprises probably couldn't afford to pay hundreds or even hundreds of thousands of dollars each. Leah accepted the envelope, and the two exchanged glances, a tacit understanding. Barry, who had just sat down, didn't pay any attention to the scene. He pursed his pursed lips, as if gathering his thoughts. Mr. Leah, I said before that I came here to investigate a case similar to the Quinn Enterprises burglary. Actually, I lied. Barry paused, took a deep breath, and spoke as if he had mustered a lot of courage. When I was 11 years old, my mother was murdered. The police arrested my father and sentenced him to life imprisonment. My father is innocent and he is not the murderer. Although I was still young at that time, I clearly remember that something ran into my house that night, like a tornado, a red and yellow shadow. I tried to run to my mother, but suddenly, I appeared blocks away from home. However, no one believed me at Leah. I know, no. You don't know, Leah hurriedly interrupted Diana. Looking at her eyes, he knew that a certain god was going to take the blame again. Diana looked aggrieved. You haven't heard me finish yet. Why do you say I don't know? Wait, does Diana know something? What does he want to say? Barry's eyes suddenly flashed with anticipation. Leah sighed and quickly changed the topic. Diana just wanted to say that the robber who committed the robbery has been caught, and the Star City police are closing the case. Yes, I know that the robber who committed the robbery has indeed been arrested, because you caught him, Barry said in surprise. After finishing speaking, he looked around and made sure that no one was paying attention to his side before taking out the tablet he had been holding in his arms. He opened a surveillance video and pressed the play button. What was playing in it was the surveillance footage of Leah and Diana beating up the enhanced person last night. Although the definition of the video is not high, you can still see clearly what should be seen. Especially Diana. A goddess is a goddess. Even in low-definition surveillance footage, her slender waist remains slender, her long legs still long. Wherever she stands, her aura is unique female vigilante, and me as the one in the black tights? What the hell do you mean? Leah's face darkened instantly, and he suppressed the urge to slap the table and chair and yell at Barry, let's fight, young man, show us your weapons. Barry also felt Leah's anger, but naively thought that Leah didn't want his identity to be exposed. Mr. Leah, Ms. Diana, don't worry. I will keep your identities confidential. Like I said before, I'm investigating this case, these cases that no one believes, because I want to find the truth. There are indeed truths to incredible things in this world. Then we can find the real murderer who killed my mother and clear my father's name, Barry said sincerely. Diana lowered her head slightly and whispered to Barry, I have a lasso of truth. If you have a suspect, I can help you interrogate him. Does such a thing really exist? Barry's eyes widened in disbelief. He then asked in confusion, I have a lot of questions for you. Where do these abilities of yours, the ability to punch through steel plates, come from? This world is not as simple as you see it. There are many unknown existences, aliens, gods, magic. You will understand the specific situation later. Leah did not explain further. After all, this is not the place to talk about superpowers. But Barry still refused to give up. Is there a school for people with superpowers like Hogwarts, or a gathering place? How can I find that shadowy figure I saw as a child? I haven't seen it since. How can I? Barry, calm down. Leah could clearly sense that Barry was very emotional. It was normal. Anyone who knew that people with superpowers existed would be excited, not to mention Barry, who had been searching for the real murderer of his mother for over a decade. Barry stood up abruptly, excitedly saying, How can you expect me to stay calm? I've spent my entire life trying to prove what I saw that night was real. I've never been so close to the truth. He subconsciously glanced at his watch. Tonight, there's a particle acceleration collision experiment at the Advanced Technology Laboratory, and the train to Central City leaves in 10 minutes. Oh my god, how am I going to make it? Leah pushed the hysterical Barry back into his seat. Barry, I'll keep an eye out for those yellow and red shadows you mentioned, okay? As for you missing the train, I'll take you home myself, thanks, but are you sure? Even if you drive, it takes about 7 or 8 hours to get from Star City to Central City and back, Barry said worriedly. He had to report to the police station that afternoon. He had actually sneaked out to Star City on sick leave. His superiors were already aware of this and had specifically ordered him to show up at the station that afternoon or he'd be fired. Diana whispered, Don't worry, Lee, you can fly. Yes, Barry's eyes widened in disbelief. his face filled with incredulity, his mouth wide open enough to fit a large banana. After all, the surveillance cameras weren't facing the sky, so they hadn't captured Leah and Diana flying, so Barry hadn't known about the fact. Now that he knew, it felt like a door to another world was slowly opening. Wow, what other abilities do you have that I don't know about? Barry's expression was truly captivating. Chapter 37, If You Like Me, Confess. Leo rolled his eyes at Barry and didn't waste any more time talking to him. Instead, he turned to Diana and said, I'll take you to Felicity's place later. Wait here for me while I take Barry to Central City, okay? Don't worry, I'll stay with Felicity and won't run around. Diana said this with conviction, but Leah still had a lingering suspicion. Didn't you see how cheerful she was running down the street last night? Leah was completely unsure. Never mind, I'll just have to believe you. Leah led the two of them away. After dropping Diana off at Felicity's office at Quinn Enterprises, he and Barry stood on the rooftop of the Quinn Enterprises building. Are you ready to fly? Leah changed into his black vigilante uniform. Kryptonian clothing was durable and would slowly heal after being torn. It might be some kind of nanotechnology, though Leah didn't understand quite it, but it was definitely better than anything made on Earth. Barry was well aware he was standing on the 37th floor. He leaned out and peered down. Are you sure you want to fly from here? How come I didn't realize I'm afraid of heights before? How are you going to fly? Are you going to put on a condor mask and suddenly sprout wings, or are you going to spit flames from your hands and rely on the recoil of the flames? Shut up. Lee took off flat, grabbing Barry by the collar and soaring into the sky. Barry felt like he was being hoisted into the air by a high-rise crane. He struggled in panic as he watched the bustling streets below gradually shrink. Whoa, steady, Mr. Lee, brother, you've got to hold on tight. I'll lose my job if I don't get to the Central City Police Department in time, but I'd rather not lose my life than my job. As a man with a habit of muttering at every turn, Lee glanced down at Barry, who happened to look up at him. Lee raised an eyebrow, a wicked smile flashing across his face. Barry's face darkened. No, what are you trying to do, Lee? Calm down, Barry. I can have you at the Central City Police Department in 5 minutes. Are you ready? No, Lee. With a sonic boom, Leah, carrying Barry, vanished into the air, leaving behind a sonic boom. Like a speeding missile, he whistled through the air as he hurtled towards Central City at top speed. Although leading people at speed was something Barry had done almost daily since becoming the Flash, Leah had managed to carry him from Star City to Central City, a distance of 300 miles, in just 5 minutes. After such a brutal experience, Barry vomited for half an hour at the Central City Police Department. Brother, are you really okay? How about I take you to the hospital? I saw a hospital about 5 kilometers away when I was in the sky. Barry rolled over in shock. No, I'm fine. Ugh. Leah looked sympathetically at Barry Allen, who was nearly vomiting bile from the high-speed movement. He sighed regretfully. Oh, I really want to record this. This will be a black mark on the Flash forever. What did you say? What kind of hero? Barry asked, hearing Leah's mumbling. I mean, there's a particle collision experiment tonight, right? Barry, are you planning on going? Leah quickly changed the subject. After vomiting for half an hour, Barry sat aside, resting his head against the wall. Yet, I'm thinking of inviting my girlfriend to see it. Not really a girlfriend, but a female friend. I haven't even dated her yet. Okay, actually. I know everything you said. Leah patted Barry's shoulder. Anyone who's watched the American TV series The Flash knows that Barry has had a crush on Iris, his childhood friend, since childhood, but they've never confessed their feelings. Later, during the 9 months Barry was struck by lightning and in a coma, Iris's father's partner, a handsome police officer, managed to hook up with her. However, to Barry, he simply assumed that Leah understood his unrequited love for Iris. Brother, I have a suggestion, Leah said. Barry looked at Leah seriously and asked, what's your suggestion, Leah? Tell me what you want to tell me. I'm listening. We're all adults. Don't play those secret crushes. If you like someone, just confess. If it works out, that's fine. If not, force it. 3 years at the very least, up to 10, then we'll be back as heroes, Leah said seriously. Barry smiled happily at Leah's suggestion. Iris started learning kickboxing from her police officer dad when she was 9. I'm no match for her, himself. I get what you mean. If you like someone, Confess. Leah, you're right. I'll find a chance to express my feelings for her today. As soon as I see her today, I'll tell her. Love can't be delayed, understand, Leah said. Brother, I can only help you so far, the rest was up to him. If Barry still couldn't muster the courage to confess, his future wife would be seduced by her father's partner. For the next year, Barry would have to watch his future wife kiss someone else. What's that song about the green light? Love is a light, so green it makes you panic, brother. Barry nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. I understand. Thank you, Leah. I've decided. I'll confess my feelings to Iris as soon as I see her today, low and slowly. Just as he'd predicted, a flash of red lightning flashed by in the distance, stopping not far ahead. Leah frowned, addressing the yellow figure in front of him. You've been staring at me since I arrived in Central City. Did you really think I couldn't sense it? The yellow figure flashed again, appearing behind Leah, even closer. Who are you? Why did you come to Central City? And why are you approaching Barry Allen? The figure's voice was deep and rich, demanding Leah sharply, seeming to be surprised by his presence. Leah couldn't see the man's face, but the yellow bodysuit and the lightning bolt logo on his chest all suggested he was the Flash's nemesis, Reverse Flash. He's the murderer of Barry's mother, a speedster and the nemesis of the Flash in the future world to travel through time and space to go back to the past and kill Barry Allen, who was still a child, so as to completely erase the Flash from the timeline. However, the Flash of the future also followed and prevented the young Barry from being killed. The angry Reverse Flash turned and stabbed Barry's mother to death. Leah smiled faintly at the yellow-clothed Reverse Flash and said, Speedster, should I call you Harrison Wells? Or Albert Swan? Chapter 38, Reverse Flash. When Leah revealed Reverse Flash's disguise and true identity, Reverse Flash was briefly stunned. Masked individuals are known to be extremely secretive about their true identities. If their true identities were known to their opponents, they would be in grave danger. Therefore, Leah's casual revelation of Reverse Flash's two identities instantly heightened the threat level. How do you know my identity? Who are you? Reverse Flash actually barked the last words as he approached Leah step by step. Without a word, he began to swarm around her at high speed. To the average person, Reverse Flash's rapid movement, with its sparks, lightning, and blurry shadows swirling around him, was certainly terrifying. But to Leah, he possessed superhuman speed, his eyes able to follow Reverse Flash's movements perfectly. So, from his perspective, he looked like a middle schooler in a yellow tights, huffing and puffing in circles around him. Damn, he was idiotic. I'll give you a discount if you keep running errands, Leah slapped him across the face. As Leah began to strike, Reverse Flash sneered. To him, Leah's movements were as slow as a snail, it would take until the next century to hide him. So, for the first thousandth of a second, Reverse Flash was still debating what to do with Leah, kill him and throw him into the sea to feed the fish, or tie him up and study the mystery of this man's flight. Reverse Flash preferred studying superheroes to outright killing, that's how he acquired his superpowers. But the next moment, in the still world Reverse Flash had created, he strangely noticed that Leah's eyes were focused in the direction of his movement. A still world is when a speedster achieves super speed, and everything around them seems to stop. Of course, this stillness isn't truly static, it's that the world around them can't keep up with the speedster's speed, so it appears to be standing still. But even in Reverse Flash's frozen world, the entire world stood still. Only Leah's gaze was focused on Reverse Flash, who was circling him with a groaning thud. How is that possible? How can you even see me? Reverse Flash found it inconceivable. After all, he knew every speedster in the world, but he had never met Leah. Not only can I see you, I can also beat you, Leah roared, and before Reverse Flash could even begin to stun, his palm landed in front of him. Confused, Reverse Flash's heart raced, and he desperately tried to dodge. However, Leah's palm landed with unerring precision on Reverse Flash's face. Smack! An irresistible force emanated from Leah's hand, and the frozen world instantly ended. Reverse Flash was spun 2,880 degrees in the air, rolling like a top down the road for a long distance. Finally coming to a stop, he collapsed to the ground, clutching his face, and with a groaning wow, he spat out a mouthful of blood stained with his teeth, looking utterly miserable. While Leah couldn't compare to the speedster in sheer speed, Leah's unexpected slap had landed him squarely on target. Sorry, I hit him too hard, Leah said, slowly drifting towards Reverse Flash. Poor Reverse Flash, terrified at Leah's approach, scrambled back, his voice leaking out as he retreated. Don't come over here. What do you want to do? Leah hovered in midair, rubbing his chin as he pondered. Killing you now would save Barry a lot of trouble, but it would mean he might not even be able to become the Flash for years. Reverse Flash's heart nearly leaped at these words. These first few words held a tremendous amount of information. First, Reverse Flash determined that Leah knew his identity and his plan to create the Flash ahead of time. As if this person had seen through everything, the clever Reverse Flash, or rather, Dr. Albert Swan, began to deduce a plausible explanation. You're from the future, like me, right? You know everything because it's already happened, so you know it all, Reverse Flash asked, staring intently at Leah, as if he had solved the mystery. So, dealing with intelligent people is always the easiest. You don't need to explain too much, they'll come up with a perfect explanation. Even though Leah wasn't from the future, but from another universe, it didn't matter, as long as he could fool Reverse Flash, it was enough. You can think of it this way, Albert Swan, but you have to remember two things. First, I will not interfere with your training program for the Flash, but if you dare to hurt Barry Allen, I will crush every bone in your body, Reverse Flash sighed. You know I need his speed to help me travel through time and space to return to my own era, so not only will I not hurt him, I will do my best to protect him. I have to protect my biggest enemy. How ironic, it's great that you have this awareness. The second point is that the yellow ring on your hand should be some kind of future technology that can store uniforms. Make a few for me. Not too many, just 5 or 6 will do. Leo didn't want to wear a tights under his coat every day. He was so fucking upset. He didn't know how Superman could bear it. Hearing the second request, Reverse Flash looked down at the ring on his finger. Actually, this isn't storage. Since you're also from the future, you should know the Atom. He can change size at will, and this ring uses that principle to shrink my suit. Just tell me, can you make it for me? Leah asked impatiently. Yes, but I'll need a little time, Reverse Flash agreed. Leah wasn't sure if the other party would play dirty tricks, but judging by Reverse Flash's personality, he definitely would. But he still politely warned, Albert Swan, you're a smart man, so don't try to be clever with me, or I'll kill you without hesitation. The other man's eyes struggled, and he moved his lips with difficulty. I understand, you understand, so get out of here, Leah shouted angrily. Reverse Flash, as if granted amnesty, immediately unleashed his super speed and vanished from the road in an instant. While the speedster's recovery ability is impressive, Reverse Flash only seems to possess this super recovery ability when wearing his yellow suit, and knocked out teeth are unlikely to grow back. The thought of Reverse Flash slipping his tongue during a news interview as Harrison Wells later that evening is too beautiful to watch. Chapter 39, Research Plan. Metropolis, Lex Corp. After finishing his work for the day, Lex walked to his private elevator and pressed the button for the -3rd floor. That was the floor of his special laboratory. Ever since he secretly brought in the Kryptonian's body a few days ago, his researchers have been working overtime to study its instruments. He walked to a glass wall. Through this wall, he could see a room resembling an operating room, with the Kryptonian's body lying on the operating table. Around him, researchers were busily conducting their research. A middle-aged researcher with a Mediterranean hairstyle approached Lex and said, "Mr. Lex, so far, we've found that the only substance capable of harming the test subjects is green meteorite. That's why we've reforged all our scalpels from green meteorite." Lex smiled. Green meteorite? Very good. I've already collected a fair amount of this green meteorite from meteorites. It seems necessary to create a batch of weapons using it. Lex had no tolerance for beings that could surpass human power. It was hard to imagine you driving down the street one day when an invulnerable and immensely powerful being suddenly appeared, picked up your car, and smashed it into another monster. Go on, you've been researching for so long, you must have discovered more than just this one, Lex asked. Of course, Mr. Lex, although our subject is dead, his cells remain dormant. We're trying to decipher his genetic sequence to uncover the secret of his power, but it's a massive undertaking and won't be easy. Also, I've discovered that his cells react very weakly to sunlight, so I've hypothesized that with sufficient light and a sufficient dose of a biological agent, we might be able to awaken him, the Mediterranean researcher said excitedly. Lex's brow furrowed at this, and he glared at the researcher. What? You want to awaken him? No, 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 Mr. Lex, please listen to me. My idea is to implant a biochip in his brain, establish certain conditions, and then attempt to activate his cells to the maximum extent possible. After that, we'll place him under 300 times the intensity of simulated sunlight. I want to transform him into a loyal warrior who can obey our command. Of course, this is just my idea. Actual implementation requires your approval. The Mediterranean researcher spoke rapidly, fearing Lex would find his plan too crazy and stop him mid-sentence. But Lex didn't interrupt him. He was silent for a long moment, then suddenly broke into a strange smile. He patted Mediterranean's face and said, "You want to create a loyal wolfhound for me? That's a dangerous idea. But I like it. I want you to put a feasibility study and a risk assessment on my desk tomorrow morning. Any questions?" It was clear that Lex was interested in Mediterranean's plan, which excited Mediterranean, who readily agreed, "No problem, Mr. Lex." Lee returned to Quinn Enterprises from Central City. As expected, Diana wasn't there. Even Felicity was missing. She found Oliver and learned that the two of them had gone shopping. "I hope Felicity can keep an eye on Diana," Lee said, her mind racing. "Maybe I could hire a tutor for her to educate her about modern life," Oliver suggested with a smile, lying in his boss chair. Leah poured herself a cup of coffee from the coffee machine in Oliver's office. "I did educate her, but Diana is a bit stubborn and always gets stuck in a rut. I've already instructed them to get Diana an ID card, and it should be ready in a day or two. She's an Israeli immigrant who previously lived in Star City and now works as an investment advisor at Quinn United Enterprises." "What do you think?" Oliver asked with a smile. Leah didn't have any objections to the identity issue, but the investment advisor position. "Oliver, you should know Diana doesn't understand investing. She wouldn't even be able to work properly." Leah felt it necessary to discuss it in advance. "Of course, I know that investment advisory is just a nominal position. Diana just needs an identity right now. Speaking of which, Leah, have you ever considered staying in Star City? I'd love for you to join my team." This was Oliver's second invitation to Leah to join Team Arrow. Especially after witnessing Leah's abilities last night, Oliver was even more determined to recruit her. "Imagine if you were ever in danger in a future operation, Leah would be your lifeline. Thank you for your kindness, but I have to return to town. I have some things to attend to there." Leah politely declined Oliver's invitation. Diana and Felicity's shopping trip was surprisingly harmonious. Perhaps every woman has a talent for shopping. They bought a ton of things. That evening, a large crowd gathered around the cutting-edge technology lab in Central City. Reporters were covering the upcoming particle accelerator experiment, but the majority of the people present were against it, and protests erupted. At the Central City Police Department's identification section, Barry was processing the latest piece of evidence when a curvaceous woman with brown hair approached. "Hey, Barry, you're still busy? Didn't you ask me to go with you to the particle accelerator experiment today?" the girl said, smiling as she approached Barry. "Iris, I don't think I can go today, but that's not important. What's important is," Barry's gaze softened. He thought about what Leah had said to him earlier, then mustered up the courage to walk over to Iris and said seriously, "I love you, Iris." Iris smiled and gave Barry a hug. "I love you, too, Barry." Barry knew Iris had misunderstood him. After all, in America, anyone can say "I love you" to a friend or relative, and what he meant was definitely not just a friendly sentiment. "Iris, I mean, I fell in love with you when we were kids, when we didn't even know what love was." Chapter 40, Barry was struck by lightning. After hearing Barry's true confession, Iris's smile froze on her face. She seemed to be shocked by the sudden scene and covered her mouth in disbelief. Barry didn't know what was going on in Iris's mind. He was a little panicked and continued to explain, "But then my mother was murdered, and I had to live with a girl I had a crush on. I had many opportunities to tell you, at the high school graduation prom, when I was in college, every birthday, every Christmas, but I never said it. I'm a coward. I was afraid that you didn't like me, and if I told you my true feelings, I would lose you from then on, but I don't want to go on like this." Iris's body trembled slightly. Perhaps she had always loved this sunny and shy big boy in her heart. She asked tentatively, "Barry, are you serious? You are not kidding?" Looking at Iris's expectant eyes, the seeds of love that had been buried in Barry's heart for a long time began to take root and sprout. He held up 4 fingers, pointed them toward the sky, and uttered the words any man would say, "I swear, My love for you is truly true. If I tell even a single lie, I will be struck by lightning." As soon as he finished speaking, thunder rumbled from the sky, the booming sound frightening Iris to the point of dread. Barry's face immediately turned green. How could heaven have thundered so recklessly just after he'd made his vow? But before he could offer any explanation, a dazzling yellow flash erupted outside the window. A massive explosion echoed from the direction of the cutting-edge laboratory, the resulting energy shockwave instantly spreading in all directions. What the hell? Barry was stunned for a full second. Just as he reacted and tried to get Iris out of the lab, a golden bolt of lightning descended from the sky, striking him directly. Boom. God, you can't play tricks on me like this. That was Barry's last thought before he passed out. The next day, at the Green Arrow's secret operations base in Star City. Have you heard? That guy who worked on our case last time, Barry Allen, seems to have been struck by lightning and is now in the intensive care unit at Central City Hospital. Diggle appeared at the Arrow base and spoke seriously to everyone. Oliver and the others were startled, asking with strange expressions, how could a perfectly normal person be struck by lightning? It seems he was confessing his love to a girl and making some kind of vow, and right after he finished, a bolt of lightning struck. Diggle shrugged. Everyone's faces lit up. Felicity was very concerned about Barry. Is he out of danger now? I saw the news that the lab in Central City exploded, and many people were injured. Could Barry's lightning strike be related to that? Diana, now dressed in an elegant white dress, joined the discussion. I think Eris and the lightning probably have nothing to do with it. If it's really a case of Zeus, it's more likely. Leah spoke before Diana, saving her from having to blame Eris every time. Actually, I was thinking, why don't we go see him? He's our friend, after all. Diana surprisingly didn't mention Eris this time. Oliver had been tracking the source of Mirakuru, but they'd been pursuing a key lead for the past 2 days, so they hadn't had time to visit Barry yet. Diana and I can go on behalf of everyone. It only takes 5 minutes for me to fly to Central City, and then it's time to return to town, Lee suggested. No one else objected. But Oliver sighed. I didn't expect you to leave so soon. I wanted to keep you a few more days. If you need anything, call me anytime. I promise I'll be there in 10 minutes. Lee's words lifted a huge weight off Oliver's heart. As long as Lee was there, he had no need to worry, even if a large army of enhanced humans appeared. After all, no matter how powerful an enhanced human was, they were no match for Lee. Felicity went out to the florist to buy a bouquet of flowers, packed them in a sturdy box, and brought them back with a few written notes. Afterward, Lee said goodbye to everyone and took Diana to Central City to visit Barry. Ever since Barry's accident, his adoptive father, Joe West, had taken an extended leave from the police department and had been accompanying him. When Leah and Diana arrived, he greeted them warmly. Mr. West, I'm sure Barry will be well soon. You really don't have to worry too much, Leah gave a spoiler, but Officer West thought Leah was trying to comfort him. Yes, I know. Thank you for visiting him. Leaving the hospital, Diana hesitated, saying, I can sense a powerful force within Barry. Yes, the lightning gave him that power. When he wakes up, he'll be completely transformed. In Leah's mind, the Barry Allen card in the system's atlas gradually turned from white to purple. So where are we going next? Diana asked. To the small town in Metropolis. That's my home, and there's also a weapon to fight General Zod. The weapon Leah was referring to was kryptonite. As the site of the meteorite crash, the town was filled with numerous meteorites, and Leah had 2 main goals in mind for this trip. The first step was to craft weapons from kryptonite to fight the impending arrival of General Zod. Secondly, the remaining kryptonite needed to be destroyed, thus ensuring Superman's safety. In short, kryptonite is a double-edged sword. It can be used to kill both good and evil. Diana was disappointed. Why can't we just go to Zod's homeworld and kill him? He's out there in the vast universe. I don't know where he is, but he knows Earth's location. Let me tell you, Earth holds the key to reviving Krypton. You heard what Flo said. Zod will arrive soon, and we must be prepared. If Clark were there, Lee's pressure would be much less. But the problem was that Clark was still in the Fortress of Solitude in the Arctic, and there was no telling when he would return. Therefore, Lee had to be fully prepared. Diana finally compromised. Okay, but I want to take a plane. Felicity said that planes are the fastest means of transportation. Don't listen to her nonsense. I'm the fastest means of transportation in the world. And it's yours for life. "Come on, Diana, sit on me and I'll take you flying," Leah said in a sly tone. "I heard that anyone who votes for me and gives me a 5-star rating can take the goddess to heaven." Chapter 41, Project Destroyer. Metropolis. Today was a momentous day for LexCorp. LexCorp had approved the plan submitted by the Mediterranean researcher to awaken and control the Kryptonian warrior, Joel Rawl, by implanting a brain chip. They had named it Project Destroyer. Although Lex feared the powerful Kryptonians, the chance to control such a powerful being was worth a risk. It was like everyone knew nuclear weapons were dangerous, but some countries would risk violating peace treaties to develop them. Success would give them the confidence to speak out, and they would have the trump card to fight future threats. Lex, the armed forces are ready. All ammunition has been replaced with green meteorite bullets. A team of heavily armed private mercenaries stood in a line, each holding a modified rifle. Guarding Lex in full battle readiness began to activate the experiment. They first used a kryptonite scalpel to cut open Joel Lal's skull and implanted a chip in his brain. Smart chip implanted, activating. Neural connections normal, activating 20x simulation radiation. Wounds healing slowly, command transmission and response normal. So far, the operation was a resounding success. The smart chip was implanted in the subject's brain, and his nerves were well compatible with the information it transmitted. This was a very good start. The Mediterranean researcher looked up at the glass wall. Lex had unknowingly placed his hands on the wall, his gaze filled with anticipation. In the second phase of the experiment, we'll increase the simulated solar radiation to 300 times its power. Theoretically, this will maximize the activation of the subject's cells, but it won't be a true resurrection. He has no independent consciousness and can only respond to the commands of the intelligent chip. But just in case, please prepare the armed forces for combat, the researcher made his request. Lex waved behind him, and the forces immediately drew their guns and loaded kryptonite bullets. Once everything was ready, several researchers adjusted the power of the simulated solar radiation to maximum and injected the subject with the appropriate biological agent. Everyone donned special sunglasses to protect their eyes from the sudden glare. With a press of a button, the simulated solar radiation, 300 times its power, shone on Joel Lal's body. Even through the special sunglasses, Lex could feel the blinding light and the fiery heat. "How is the subject? Is the simulated solar radiation working?" Lex asked anxiously. The Mediterranean researcher fiddled with the lab equipment. "Not yet. The subject shows no signs of recovery." "Wait, how could it be? His cells are decaying." The experiment was immediately terminated, the 300-fold simulated solar radiation turned off, and the bright light in the room faded. It took Lex and the others a while to adjust. Scattered black spots began to appear on Joel's body, illuminated by the simulated sunlight, like livor mortis, spreading. Clearly, the experiment had failed. The Mediterranean researcher seemed frantic, unable to accept the result. "Impossible, this is impossible. My calculations can't be wrong. There must be something I haven't considered carefully." He used a kryptonite scalpel to cut a piece of the blackened skin and examined it under a microscope. Lex shook his head in disappointment, and the armed men around him lowered their guns. "Cancerous? How could it be?" His cells suddenly became cancerous, dividing wildly. The Mediterranean researcher looked back, and sure enough, the piece of skin he had cut with a kryptonite knife had healed in just a few seconds. The Kryptonian corpse lying on the operating table was now completely corrupted, turning a dark brown. Here and there, its skin was dotted with raised cysts and sunken areas. "This thing is so ugly, just like a zombie from a movie." Lex frowned, debating whether to order its destruction when the decayed body on the table suddenly stirred. "It's moving. Oh my god. The subject, he's standing up." Although everyone had stood there hoping to see the dead Kryptonian stand up again, the sight of him actually happening, especially as he unsteadily climbed off the table in his decayed state, sent a chill through everyone's scalps, a chill running from their tailbone to their foreheads. Swish! The armed forces raised their guns in unison, while the researchers in the lab froze, watching the subject's next move with alarm. However, after waiting for an eternity, the subject simply stood at the edge of the table, motionless. "Relax, relax, the subject is very stable." A Mediterranean researcher bravely approached Joel, who had completely decayed. He pressed the button that activated his smart chip and ordered him, "Sit on the operating table." Joel, in his decayed state, swayed before actually sitting down obediently. Everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. Decayed Joel for a moment. While the subject looked a bit unsightly, at least he was manageable. The subject is stable. I need to collect more samples for research. Seeing Joel sitting quietly on the operating table, the other researchers bravely approached, picking up syringes to draw blood. The metal needles pierced Joel's decayed skin and broke instantly. Hey! Don't be fooled by his skin, which resembles rotting plant matter. Ordinary steel won't break his defenses. First, use the green meteorite knife to cut open his arm, then draw blood. Don't be afraid, he's just a mindless, walking corpse, Mediterranean scolded his researchers. Yes, got it, Director. The researcher immediately switched to a kryptonite knife, cut open Joel's skin, and began drawing blood. Joel, who should have been unconscious, suddenly displayed a ferocious expression as the knife sliced through his skin. Roar! The corrupted Joel suddenly reached out and lifted up the researcher who had cut his skin with a kryptonite knife, dropping the half-filled vial of blood to the ground. The armed forces outside immediately protected Lex behind them, aiming their kryptonite-loaded rifles at the corrupted Joel. Wait, don't be impulsive, wait, the Mediterranean researcher extended his hand, making a calming gesture. He activated his smart chip again and commanded Joel, put down your man. I command you to sit down. I repeat, put down your man. Sit down. The corrupted Joel's head twitched, his eyes unfocused, staring blankly ahead, and he slowly lowered his arm. Just when thought the researcher was safe, Joel exerted a slight force with his fingers, crushing the researcher's neck like a piece of soft clay. Then, he suddenly stepped forward and slammed into the Mediterranean researcher. P.S. To clarify, this Kryptonian warrior Joel Rawl has not been resurrected 300 times. The simulated solar radiation is stored in Joel's body as reserve energy, causing his cells to mutate. This mutation is similar to Doomsday, but he is not as powerful as Doomsday. It can be regarded as Doomsday's primary form, so he is called the Destroyer. By the way, please give me a recommendation. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42, Breaking Out of the Cage. Though the Kryptonian warrior Joel appeared corrupted, he was still a Kryptonian, especially after being blasted by simulated solar radiation 300 times stronger. A sudden sonic echoed through the lab, and the corrupted boom Joel slammed into the Mediterranean researcher. Like a speeding armored vehicle running over a watermelon, the Mediterranean researcher grunted as his entire body exploded and blood splattered. For a moment, screams filled the lab. Shoot, shoot. Kill him, Lex immediately gave the order. He had no idea why the subject had transformed into such a monstrous form, but he knew its weakness, kryptonite. Da-da-da. Tongues of green flame gushed from the rifle barrel, and bullets made of kryptonite pierced the air, raining down on Joel the Destroyer. Kryptonite bullets were the Kryptonian's nemesis. Despite Joel the Destroyer's swift dodging, several of the bullets still landed on him, easily penetrating his skin. Black, sticky blood splattered. But before anyone could rejoice, they saw the cells in Joel the Destroyer's wound dividing frantically, forcing the kryptonite bullet out of his body at a speed visible to the naked eye. The combined effects of the simulated solar radiation and various biological agents had caused Joel's Kryptonian cells to undergo a near-cancerous mutation, becoming hyperactive and capable of endless division and proliferation. Thus, the effects of the kryptonite on him were minimized. Roar! Roar! Joel was a natural-born warrior after all. Even though he no longer possessed consciousness, his fighting talent was woven into the very DNA of every cell. In the moment the armed forces hesitated in surprise, he flashed, grabbed the two researchers, and slammed them against the glass wall. There was a sound of shattering glass, and the next second, Joel the Destroyer charged into the ranks, his arms flailing, tearing them to pieces. Roar! Another roar sent a chill through Present. Fortunately, Joel the Destroyer didn't continue killing. As if sensing something unsettling in his hands, he bent his legs and leaped to his feet. With a roar, he slammed headfirst into the reinforced concrete ceiling. But the ceiling was as fragile as tofu, shattered by Joel the Destroyer's impact, leaving a massive and vanishing hole before their very eyes. Damn! Why don't these green bullets work on him? The few surviving armed men complained in fear. Lex was well protected by the men, and the moment Joel the Destroyer burst out, he ducked to the back of the group. It's not that the green bullets are useless, but that the subject has undergone some kind of mutation. We need a larger green meteorite weapon to kill him. Clearly, it wasn't that kryptonite was ineffective against Joel the Destroyer, it could still penetrate his steely skin. It was simply that the kryptonite bullets were too weak. A larger caliber weapon, aimed directly at the heart or head, would have been equally effective. The experiment has gotten out of control. Bring out all meteorite weapons and destroy him at all costs, Lex ordered over the intercom. He didn't regret starting the experiment. After all, the chance to control a powerful being was a temptation Lex couldn't resist. He believed it would benefit both himself and humanity as a whole. As for the experiment's failure, he blamed the incompetence of his researchers. After bursting out of LexCorp's underground laboratory, Joel the Destroyer acted entirely on instinct. Snarling wildly, he charged into the streets of Metropolis like a hungry wolf among a flock of sheep. His warrior instincts drove him to destroy everything he could see. Leah returned to Metropolis with Diana worrying about which way to go. "Diana, you'll be staying at my house for a while. Once you're fully integrated into modern society, you can find a job and go to school, or move out and live on your own." Leah landed at his door. Before entering his room, he felt he had to clarify something with Diana. He wanted to make sure he had no ulterior motives. Diana was stunned for a moment, then asked in confusion, "I understand work and school, just like Felicity at Quinn Enterprises, but why should I move out? Do you dislike me?" Her words were filled with utter grievance, and with her wide, watery eyes, anyone who didn't know would think Leah had done something outrageous. "No, how could I dislike you? But generally speaking, living together is only for couples, the kind who like each other and would do anything for each other," Leah explained. He didn't want Diana to become more accustomed to the ways of the modern world and then think he had planned it all. After hearing Leah's explanation, Diana looked at her seriously and said, "We're boyfriend and girlfriend, and I like you very much. I'd do anything for you, do anything for me." Why did that sound so sinful? The girl hadn't objected to living with him, so Leah would be being hypocritical if he continued to dwell on it. He's a nice guy. As for the two-room house, they'd talk about it tonight. Leah went to open the door, but before he could even touch the knob, it swung open from the inside, and his uncle, James Rogers, emerged. Their eyes met, and they exchanged glances. "You little bastard, you dare come back? Do you know how worried I was about you? Come in. If you don't explain everything to me today, you can't." Who is this girl?" Uncle James was about to drag Leah into the house when he noticed a girl with a face as exquisite as a sculpture standing behind him. And judging by her demeanor, she was definitely the daughter of a wealthy family. So, the question arose, what was the meaning of such a beautiful girl following his own son? Uncle James, using his policeman's imagination to the fullest, questioned Leah in the tone of an interrogator. "You've grown in skill. Confess and receive leniency, resist and receive severity. What illegal acts have you used your superpowers to commit to kidnap a young girl?" Chapter 43, Leah's explanation. Leah's face flushed instantly, and she glared at her uncle. "What nonsense are you talking about? Am I the kind of person who would kidnap a girl?" James stared at Leah with a look that said, "Aren't you?" The situation was awkward for a moment, but Diana, displaying her Amazonian charm, smiled and greeted James. "Hello, Uncle. My name is Diana." "Hello, Diana, please come in and have a seat." James cheerfully ushered Diana in and offered her a drink. Leah's face was itched with disbelief. Was she really still his nephew? Diana was watching TV in the living room. James pulled Leah to the balcony and asked seriously, "Shouldn't you explain to me what your superpowers are, and that man who appeared on the street last time? Oh my god, the scene of you two fighting was just like a professional demolition team. You destroyed the whole street, and where have you been all this time? And what about this little girl you brought back?" Leah looked embarrassed, but when he thought about it, after General Zod came to Earth, everyone would know about Krypton. In that case, there was nothing to hide from his uncle. That person is an alien. They have powerful strength and an indestructible body. The only thing that can kill them is the green meteorite, kryptonite, contained in the meteorite shower 10 years ago. And there is reliable information that there will be stronger aliens invading the Earth. James looked at Leah with a strange expression. "So you are also an alien? Come on, I'm your nephew, okay? Don't you have any idea whether I am an alien or not? I'm just a human who happens to have superpowers." Leah didn't care whether his uncle believed it or not, he explained it this way anyway. What about that girl in the living room? What's up with her? You mean Diana? She's a girl I met while I was hunting another alien. She also has superpowers. She can help me fight the impending threat. James's face was filled with confusion. What? You're saying this little girl has superpowers too? Of course she could easily take down an entire American division. Leah's understatement made James gasp. He lit a cigarette and took a few deep puffs, as if considering the truth of Leah's story. Aliens or something? You're already quite old. Find a partner and live out the rest of your life in peace. Leah, as usual, insulted her uncle, nearly spitting blood in anger. Just as he was about to lose his temper, Leah quickly changed the subject. By the way, what about the Kryptonian body I asked you to take care of when I left last time? Did you take care of it? James's face froze at the question. Seeing his uncle speechless, Leah suddenly had a bad feeling. Leah, listen to me, the government wants to intervene in this matter, and I can't do anything about it. But I heard that the team transporting the body was robbed, all the officers were killed, and the body is missing. To this day, they still haven't figured out who did it. Was the body robbed? Leah rubbed his temple helplessly. No wonder his eyelids have been twitching lately. This must be a disaster. James couldn't understand Leah's expression of impending doom. It's just a lost body. It won't cause any big trouble, right? If the body is in the hands of the government, at least they won't do anything wrong. It's obvious that the group who took the body will have no scruples. I hope my worries are unnecessary, Leah sighed and said. At that moment, Diana, who was watching TV in the living room, suddenly called out, Lee, I saw a monster killing people on TV. Is that fake too? When Diana first encountered television, she saw a werewolf slaughtering humans. She immediately donned her Wonder Woman suit and, with a backhanded sword, cleaved the TV in half. Uncle James looked at Lee with a strange expression, but he shrugged. You won't believe this, but she's never seen TV in her life. Lee's eyes fell on the TV in the living room, and her brow furrowed. The TV was showing a scene of a metropolitan street. A monster, resembling a rotting zombie, was rampaging through the streets. Cars were like paper in front of him, and he recklessly destroyed everything on the street. The number of casualties mounted rapidly. Diana, this is the news. Everything on it is real. Lee took off her coat, revealing the black tights underneath. I'm going to. Diana changed her outfit in a split second. She wouldn't sit idly by and watch innocent people get hurt. What are you two up to? Can't this be handed over to the police, to the government? James also came over and saw the terrifying monster on TV. As Leah's uncle, he naturally didn't want Leah to take any risks. Leah shook his head, pointing at the live TV screen, and said, You're a police officer too. Do you think the police can handle this kind of monster? Diana, holding a shield in one hand and a sword of Vulcan in the other, said righteously, We can't watch innocent people get hurt. Besides, Leah said this is my destiny, and I will fight for it. James glared at Leah with disgust. This kid dared to say he didn't kidnap a little girl? Damn, destiny and all that stuff. How could this girl be so easily fooled? Okay, you two little ones, be sure to stay safe, Uncle James said helplessly, waving his hand. Leah restrained himself from telling James the truth that Diana was older than his great-grandmother. Don't worry, we'll be fine, he said, and flew towards Metropolis with Diana. A peaceful little street in the metropolis. A fat police officer was patrolling the street leisurely, holding a chicken drumstick in one hand and the other on the pager at his waist, staggering forward. Wow, big cities are so comfortable. I told you, small towns are unbearable to live in. Every other day there's either robberies or monsters showing up. Fortunately, I was smart enough to apply for a transfer to the metropolis in time. The security in the metropolis is so good. There aren't any terrorist incidents. The people here speak so nicely and are so kind. I love it here the most. Suddenly, a Mercedes-Benz, torn in two, fell from the sky and slammed into the fat police officer with a bang. Immediately afterwards, a zombie-like humanoid creature rampaged through the streets, ravaging the surrounding cars like paper. The fat police officer was so scared that he dropped his chicken drumstick on the ground, as if he had seen a ghost. What the hell is going on? Am I still asleep? Chapter 44, Joel the Destroyer. Attention all officers, terrorists on 12th Street, all officers, support. Just as the portly officer was staring blankly at the scene ahead, his pager rang with his superior's orders. Looking up at Joel the Destroyer, Smashing a truck in one hand less than 100 meters away, tears welled up in his eyes. Support? What the hell? Metropolis was supposed to be peaceful. The entire street was thrown into chaos by the appearance of this monster, with traffic jams forming. Many people abandoned their cars and fled with their families. Suddenly, screams, cries for help, and the rumble of destruction all transformed into a wave of fear. Several police cars up, and numerous riot police, rifles drawn, surrounded them. Team A, evacuate the crowd. Team B and C, follow me and take out the terrorists. Holy shit, what the hell is that monster? The arriving police officers saw Joel the Destroyer wreaking havoc, their faces filled with disbelief. What was that? A zombie? A zombie that could swing a truck like a club? Has the world gone mad? The presence of the large group of police caught Joel the Destroyer's attention. He raised the truck above his head and hurled it forward. The 5-ton truck rolled through the air, tracing a parabola, and came crashing down on the officers. Fuck. Fuck. Shoot. Kill that beast. The leading police officer, seeing several of his men and pedestrians injured or killed, angrily ordered the attack. Upon hearing the order to attack, all armed officers loaded their guns and fired at Joel the Destroyer enraged. With a roar, he suddenly soared into the air, leaping over 30 meters into the air before plummeting like a cannonball, crashing down among the officers. Boom. The ground shook violently, cracking across a vast area. The car Joel was standing on was crushed to pieces. He rushed ferociously toward a police officer and, with a single swing of his hand, sent him flying dozens of meters less than 20 meters away from Joel the Destroyer, and he had fired his weapon just now. But his small pistol posed no threat and even attracted Joel the Destroyer's attention. After knocking out several police officers, Joel the Destroyer turned to look at a chubby little guy 20 meters away. Crunchy, porky little guy. Oh my god, this monster's looking at me. The chubby officer instantly peed his pants. He didn't know where he got the strength, but he turned and ran, his speed no less than an Olympic sprinter. I quit. I'm resigning. You're killing me as a cop. Even if I die, I'll jump from here. I don't want to be a cop another day. The chubby officer ran as fast as he could, but no matter how fast he was, he couldn't outrun Joel the Destroyer. The other man suddenly leaped, raised his fist in the air, and punched the chubby officer down. If that punch had landed, the chubby officer would have been reduced to pulp. God, Jesus, Buddha, help me. The chubby officer scrambled to hide behind a taxi, but could a taxi stop the monster? I'm not dreaming. The next second, a sonic boom echoed from afar. With a bang, the windows of the buildings on both sides of the street shattered. Just as Joel the Destroyer threw a punch, a dark figure appeared in front of him, also throwing a punch. Boom. The two fists collided in midair, and an invisible wave of air spread outward from them. The fat police officer's flesh trembled with fear. When he realized he was fine, he bravely leaned out to sea. He saw a figure in a black tights, his cape fluttering behind him in the wind. Although his clothes had changed, his appearance remained the same. It was the Avenger. The small-town vigilante, the powerful Avenger. Thank God, thank Jesus, thank Buddha, the Avengers. The fat police officer burst into tears of joy. Seeing Leo was like seeing his own father. With another delicate cry, Diana, dressed as Wonder Woman, wielding the Vulcan sword, descended from the sky. As she approached Joel the Destroyer, she swung the sword, striking him squarely in the back. The invulnerable Joel, the Destroyer, was left with a hideous wound. With a furious roar, he spun around, raised his fist, and struck Diana. Diana, her eyes solemn, raised her shield to block the blow. With a muffled thud, Diana and her shield were sent flying backwards, but she simply flipped in the air and landed safely on the ground. Dare you hit my Diana? Did you ask me? Leo stepped forward, grasping the man's arm with his left hand. With a clenched fist in his right, he aimed a fierce blow at Joel the Destroyer's face. Bang! 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 With every punch he landed, the ground trembled. Leo landed 5 or 6 blows, effectively disfiguring his opponent's face beyond recognition. Despite this, the cells in Joel the Destroyer's face were frantically dividing, making his already hideous appearance look even more like the scene of a car accident. As for the wound on his back, after healing, a row of tiny bone spurs had sprouted. Holy crap! Why does this guy look so much like Doomsday? And in his original form, Leo stared at the monster before him, his confusion growing. In many versions, Doomsday is a super being created in ancient Krypton, presumably during the era of Krypton's great expansion. Doomsday was deployed in war as the most powerful individual weapon. There's even a theory that a tiny amount of Doomsday's gene was inserted into the genes of artificially bred warrior babies, such as Zod, leading to the later creation of a version of General Zod that resembled Doomsday, as seen in Batman v Superman. Doomsday wasn't very powerful in his initial appearance, but after each death, he returned in some form, even more powerful than before. In the mainstream plot, Doomsday once killed Superman. Asshole, don't tell me this guy is that Kryptonian Jor-El. He's Zod's subordinate and has the same warrior genes, Leah said, suddenly realizing something. 3 updates tomorrow, Sunday. Please bookmark, recommend, and comment. Chapter 45, A Call from the President. Leah's guess was pretty accurate. After all, only a handful of people could tinker with such a device at that time. After another round of frantic cell division, Joel the Destroyer appeared slightly larger than before, and of course, even uglier. Roar, he swung his hand with great force, and Leah quickly raised her hand to block it. With a loud bang, Leah was thrown forward, crashing into a building behind him. Joel the Destroyer tried to leap over, but Diana unsheathed her lasso of truth, bounding his calf. Then, with all her might, she pulled Joel to the ground. Using the recoil, Diana leaped forward and slashed with her sword. Leah rushed out of the building, grabbed a lamppost from the side of the road, and smashed it into the other man's head. Bang! 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 The 3 of them engaged in a chaotic exchange of blows, mostly unleashing violent blows. The rumbling battle left the entire street in ruins. There was no intact spot in sight, cars were everywhere, some smashed into walls, others shattered and scattered. The pedestrians had mostly fled, and there was less than a squad of police officers left within a few hundred meters. They called for help via pager. Metropolitan Police Department calling for helicopter gunships. Repeat, Metropolitan Police Department calling for helicopter gunships. Extremely dangerous terrorists have appeared. From 12th to 34th Streets are completely destroyed. Requesting heavy fire support, the events in the metropolitan area had made national news. A terrifying monster had suddenly appeared, coupled with 2 equally powerful unknown vigilantes. Although the U.S. government quickly contained the situation and prevented widespread panic, people still caught wind of what was happening in Metropolis through the internet. Colonel Ryan of the 7th Military Region, the closest to Metropolis, convened an emergency meeting after receiving a distress call from the Metropolitan Police Department. At that moment, the landline in the executive conference room suddenly rang. President. But he couldn't pretend he hadn't heard it. Hello, Mr. President. Mr. President, please let me explain. It's not that we didn't detect the terrorists ahead of time. You should have seen the video report. That's a monster. Biological experiment? No, we didn't do any. Yes. I'll immediately dispatch attack helicopters and try to eliminate him as quickly as possible. After Colonel Ryan's reassurances, a busy tone rang from the other end of the line. What did President Aogwanhe say? Doesn't he usually enjoy watching the waves? Why is he suddenly interested in the news? The senior officials attending the meeting inquired. If President Aogwanhe hears this, you should all go home and retire, Colonel Ryan snorted coldly. Send out Eagle 1, 2, and 3. Carry firearms. Objective: eliminate the terrorists in Metropolis, vigilantes involved in the battle. They, eliminate them too. Colonel Ryan immediately made the decision, and his secretary passed the order. Upon receiving the order, 3 armed fighter jets immediately took off and flew towards Metropolis. Eagle 1, 2, and 3, listen. Reliable information indicates that the target you need to eliminate this time is extremely dangerous. You are authorized to use large-scale lethal weapons. Eliminating the target is the highest priority, Colonel Ryan instructed the 3 fighter pilots in the operations room. Soon, the pilots replied, Roger. We are approaching the target. Ready for battle. The once bustling streets of Metropolis were now deserted. But in the next second, a sizzle, a fiery red ray suddenly swept across the middle of the street. Immediately afterwards, a distinct crack appeared on the ground, as if a giant chainsaw had split the street in 2. Crack. Within seconds of the crack appearing, 2 figures had smashed a massive crater into the street. The surrounding walls also began to crack. It was, of course, Leah and Joel the Destroyer fighting. Since many civilians hadn't yet evacuated the buildings on either side, Leah was diligently trying to prevent them from being affected. Leah pinned Joel the Destroyer into the crater. His eyes turned crimson once more, and two fiery red rays suddenly shot out. They focused directly on Joel the Destroyer's heart. Leah intended to pierce his heart with his heat vision. Roar! 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 Joel the Destroyer, pinned down by Leah, roared frantically. He extended his massive, pitch-black hand and grasped Leah's neck. The two engaged in a grappling match once again, each desperate to kill the other. Leah roared, and the fiery rays in his eyes suddenly doubled in intensity. He was practically exhausting his energy to channel his heat vision. While this sapped his stamina significantly, the effect was truly remarkable. Joel the Destroyer's zombie-like skin burned through, revealing the pitch-black flesh beneath. Survivors in the surrounding buildings poked their heads out, the braver ones even taking out their phones to film the scene. Almost prayed for Leah to triumph, to slay the zombie-like monster and prevent his continued destruction. However, just as Leah was about to burn through Joel the Destroyer's heart with his heat vision, he swung out with his other hand, grasping Leah's neck with both hands and redirecting his gaze toward the surrounding buildings. Roar! 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 The force in Joel the Destroyer's hands suddenly increased, nearly snapping Leah's neck. He pried Leah's head open and lashed out with punches, hammering down on Leah's vulnerable spots. Bang! 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 Leah closed his eyes, still a crimson red from the overload. He couldn't remember how many times he'd beaten Joel the Destroyer to pieces, yet this doomsday-like monster always managed to recover in record time, becoming even more powerful than before. Even more baffling to Leah was the fact that even the kryptonite necklace he'd used had done little damage. It wasn't that the kryptonite wasn't effective, but rather that the amount he held was too small. Was this guy truly invincible? By now, Leah was exhausted, but the other man seemed to possess boundless stamina. He wouldn't stop until he had destroyed everything in sight. Chapter 46, It's bald, so it's stronger. Leah was lifted up by Joel the Destroyer with one hand. Excessive use of his thermal vision had drained him of energy, and for a moment he was unable to break free. Lee! Avenger, be careful! Diana leaped across the block. The earlier battle had nearly involved several civilians, but Diana intervened just in time, saving them from being caught off guard. Seeing Leah being strangled, she immediately drew her Vulcan sword and, using the momentum of her fall, slashed at Joel the Destroyer's arm. With a swish, Joel's arm was severed. Leah stepped forward and delivered a kick, sending him flying. Just then, 3 armed fighter jets flew in from the sky, their Tomahawk missiles activated and angled towards the 3 fighting below. Captain, targets spotted on 24th Street. No civilians seen in the surrounding streets, but there may be people inside the buildings. Requesting instructions, prioritize the targets, fire missiles immediately. Colonel Ryan's voice rang through his headset. The pilots of the 3 armed fighter jets, fearing disobedience, simultaneously pressed the missile launch button. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 fighter jets launched a total of 9 missiles, arrayed neatly towards Leah and his companions. Seeing himself among the targets, Leah felt the American government was completely out of their minds. While these missiles wouldn't have much impact on him, Leah was on the side of humanity. Up until now, he and Diana had been mindful of the onlookers, ensuring no accidental injuries. All the casualties had occurred before he showed up. To avoid further losses, Leah had even fought his way to the outskirts of the city. Now, the American forces launched an indiscriminate attack, unconcerned about the lives of those in the surrounding houses, raining missiles down upon them. Fuck you, Leah cursed, quickly moving with Diana out of the way. Meanwhile, Joel the Destroyer made no attempt to dodge. The missiles crashed down, rumbling across the street. A flaming shockwave instantly swept through. Diana, are you okay? Leah hugged Diana, shielding her from the blast and the debris. After all, he was invulnerable, while Diana wasn't. I'm fine. Damn, there are people in the surrounding buildings. Diana looked toward the street worriedly. The missile's shockwave had impacted all the lower-rise buildings, and many walls had collapsed, creating a horrific scene. Leah's gaze remained fixed on the center of the street. Although the surrounding smoke had still not cleared, it couldn't block Leah's clairvoyance. He clearly saw Joel the Destroyer standing intact in the street. His skin and muscles seemed to have absorbed the missile's impact, and his cells were dividing frantically. The hand Diana had severed had sprouted hideous bone spurs. It could even be said that he had become more like Doomsday. These idiots don't know what they're doing, Liak cursed helplessly as he watched the fighter jets soar overhead. The pilots of the 3 armed fighters cheered. In their view, nothing could survive 9 missiles hurled at it, nothing. Reporting to headquarters, all attacks are on target, Colonel Ryan warned through the headset. Excellent work, but don't let your guard down. Verify the target is dead. If not, attack again, Roger, and preparing to turn back. Suddenly, a bang. A figure suddenly emerged from the smoke on the ground, trailing a long trail of dust. Approaching the center plane with the speed of an anti-aircraft gun. MERS, eject, the pilot of the other plane, observing this, instinctively called out over the intercom pilot's body. After doing this, he ignored the fighter below and used it as a springboard to crash into the other fighter. Rumble. The iron fighter was easily shattered by Joel the Destroyer, the pilot killed instantly. The plane, broken into several sections, plummeted towards the city below. Damn it. Are they here to cause trouble? Liak cursed, reaching up into the sky and redirecting the falling wreckage one by one, sending them careening towards the city's periphery. The pilot inside was terrified. What had he just seen? A monster not only survived a missile attack, but could leap hundreds of meters and dismantle an airplane with its bare hands. Was he really sure this wasn't something out of science fiction? Just as he was terrified to report to headquarters that Eagle 1 and Eagle 3 had crashed and requested backup, a black speck flew in front of him. The moment the pilot looked up, a hideous, zombie-like monster, soaring in midair, even though it was charging towards him, the fighter was a lump of iron. It couldn't withstand a collision. Especially at high speeds, even a bird would be doomed if it were to hide a formidable monster, let alone a fortress. Oh my god, help. I've been in the military for so many years and still haven't had a girlfriend. The pilot in the fighter jet closed his eyes, awaiting death. Another sonic boom erupted in midair, and Lian knocked Joel the Destroyer away, sending him careening towards the outskirts of the metropolis. The pilot opened his eyes, realizing he was still alive, and a sudden surge of joy washed over him. Lee hammered Joel the Destroyer all the way to the suburbs. Joel struggled desperately in midair, and Lee realized his opponent's strength had increased considerably, making it difficult for him to handle him. Roar! The 2 men fell from the sky, Lee flying close to the ground, punching the other in the face. To defeat this monster, they could only rely on the power of kryptonite, but Lee knew of only one place where it was abundant. That was the town. Where the meteor shower had fallen 10 years earlier, a large amount of kryptonite still existed. Puff! Joel the Destroyer roared, raised his arm, transformed into a bone spur, and stabbed it into Lee's abdomen. The 2 of them tumbled and flew out due to inertia. Along the way, he knocked 2 deep ravines into the inside. Fuck, why is this beast so powerful? Is it because he's bald? Lee remembered that this Kryptonian warrior named Joel Rawal had a thick head of black hair. Could it be true that the saying "I'm bald, but I'm also stronger" is true? Otherwise, there's no explanation. Thank you to Quan Qingdian Xiaoliu Jiao Feng on Kidian Chinese website for the reward of 2,000 Kidian coins. There will be another update later this evening. Please collect it and give the website a 5-star rating. Chapter 47, Return of Superman. Despite a bone spur in his abdomen, Lee basked in the sunlight. Like a solar cell, he rapidly recharged and healed. However, no matter how quickly his wounds healed, they couldn't match the speed of Joel the Destroyer. The man's cells multiplied like crazy, and he grew a full 30 centimeters taller than before. Standing before Li Yang, he looked down upon him. Your character is clearly a cheat. Li Yang struggled to regain his composure, as the man rumbled towards him. Boom! A thunderous explosion erupted over the wilderness outside, its immense aftermath radiating in all directions. The grass and trees surrounding the 2 men bent in response, and potholes appeared on the ground, shaking the entire earth. The 2 clashed once more, like 2 heavy trucks colliding at full speed, the sound trembling the earth for miles. Diana soon arrived joined the fray. By now, the advantage of Joel the Destroyer's boundless stamina was clear. Leah and Diana had sustained varying degrees of injuries. While none were fatal, neither was in peak condition. But the opponent, far from tireless, was even stronger than before. Another round of relentless combat saw Leah's body stretched to its limits. However, his stamina was practically unlimited, putting him at a significant disadvantage if he continued the fight. Cards. Cards. If Leah had unlocked all the superhero cards, a mere half-finished Doomsday would be easily crushed with a single finger. Now, Leah was deeply regretting not bringing a large piece of kryptonite with him. Should he let Diana hold him back while he returned to town to find kryptonite? This idea was quickly rejected by Leah. In a head-on confrontation, Diana was no match for Joel the Destroyer. Another rumble echoed from the sky. At first, Leah thought it was another armed fighter jet causing trouble. Looking up, he saw a black speck, approaching from afar. What was that? A bird? A plane? No. It was Superman. In mid-air, a figure appeared before Leah's eyes, his hands raised above his head. Boom followed, and the figure reappeared above Leah and the others, descending from the sky in an almost 90-degree arc with a boom. He landed on the ground, a spiderweb of cracks forming around him. He slowly stood up, his powerful chest muscles stretching the S shape on his chest into an exaggerated arc. He looked at Leah with a faint smile. Hey, brother, long time no see. Hey, Clark, seeing you at this hour is great. Watch out, Leah warned. Joel the Destroyer appeared behind Clark, raised his bony claws, and stabbed Clark's back. But the man just smiled faintly. Just as the bony claws were about to fall, Clark slightly tilted his body and raised his hand to block Joel the Destroyer's bony arm. With a sudden force from his waist, he flung it towards Leah. In response, Leah staggered his feet and, like a fully drawn bowstring, aimed a punch at Joel the Destroyer flying towards him. Damn! With a resounding sound like a huge bell. Like an iron rod striking a 1,000-pound bronze bell, Leah's punch sent Joel the Destroyer tumbling uncontrollably in midair, the momentum creating a deep crater in the ground. Diana seized the opportunity, leaping with a Vulcan sword in hand, then thrust a blade high into the heart of Joel the Destroyer. Roar! Joel the Destroyer dodged Diana's attack with a tumble. With a flick of his hand, he whipped Diana away, then with a sudden push of his foot, he darted after her. Raising his bone spur and swinging down. Diana, Leah's heart nearly leaped at the sight. He dove forward, attempting to intercept Joel the Destroyer at top speed. However, his opponent was no slouch. Seeing Joel the Destroyer closing in on Diana, Diana clasped her hands tightly, shouted softly, and clashed her protective silver bracelets together. Ha ha ha! A shockwave of divine power, centered at Diana, spread violently in all directions. Joel the Destroyer, who had been rapidly approaching her, suddenly faltered under the shockwave and was sent flying backwards uncontrollably. Die! Leah roared, raising one hand above his head and sending a powerful punch skyward at Joel the Destroyer. Clark floated in midair, his eyes blazing with fiery rays. The three of them attacked Joel the Destroyer like a soccer ball, leaving him defenseless. Diana, are you okay? Leah took the opportunity to hug the falling Diana, who in turn hugged Leah's neck. It's just a minor injury, nothing to worry about. Anyway, who is this? He's the friend I was talking about, Clark Kent. You can call him Superman. Leah revealed Superman's true identity without a word. Clark slowly flew over to Leah's side and gave him a stern look. You're a womanizer who values women over friends. Isn't it time you introduced this woman to me? Her name is Diana, a princess of the Amazon. You can call her Wonder Woman. She's the third member of our Justice League, Leah said with a smile. Clark nodded thoughtfully. Amazons? I remember our ancestors came to Earth during the Age of Expansion. Are the Amazons a race created by the gods? Diana puffed out her chest with pride. Yes, my mother said all of us were molded from clay by Zeus. Zeus molded a woman from clay, then studied the origin of life with her and fathered a daughter. Was that how the ancient gods played games? Roar! 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 Joel the Destroyer roared from the ground. After this round of attacks, Joel the Destroyer grew madly again. Clark stared at him with a strange look in his eyes, bewildered. What kind of monster is this? Why do I feel like he's much stronger than before? He claims to be General Zod's subordinate. I killed him with kryptonite before, but for some reason he's resurrected and in this horrible form, Leah explained. Clark frowned upon hearing the words General Zod. General Zod? Zod has come to Earth too. Here comes the third update, please bookmark and recommend. Chapter 48, Kryptonite Weapons. Zod hasn't come to Earth yet. He sent two of his men to look for you, saying they want some kind of secret book of life. Leah briefly recounted the arrival of Floto and Joel to Earth, and mentioned how, while chasing Floto's ship, he accidentally crash-landed on Paradise Island and met Diana. Clark thoughtfully, his gaze solemnly fixed on Joel the Destroyer, whose body was covered in hideous bone spurs. He's looking more and more like Doomsday. I forgot to explain to you, Doomsday is a failed creation of Kryptonian scientists, the most powerful killing machine. It's said that no matter how severe his injuries, his cells will regenerate crazily and become even stronger than before, although this monster isn't as powerful as Doomsday, with his nearly unlimited physical strength and terrifying destructive power. Calling him the Destroyer is no exaggeration. Leah shrugged. Diana frowned when she heard this. No wonder I feel he is much stronger than at the beginning. Damn, is there no way to kill this monster? Yes, Leah blurted out as a matter of course. Use kryptonite. Clark also nodded. Yes, kryptonite is the only known thing that can kill Doomsday. That monster is far from the real Doomsday. With enough kryptonite, it can definitely be killed. Diana listened to the two talking and seemed to realize something. Wait, I remember that you, Superman, are also a Kryptonian. If kryptonite can kill the Destroyer, then can't it kill you too? Clark nodded seriously, and Leah patted him on the shoulder. Don't panic, Clark. Diana, you two stay here to hold back Joel the Destroyer. I'll go find kryptonite. Won't kryptonite affect you? Clark asked worriedly. Leah smiled and shook his head. I'm so handsome, kryptonite and all, no worries. Okay, in fact, once Leah found the kryptonite, he'd just need to transfer the Wonder Woman card from the secondary slot to the primary slot. That way, the kryptonite wouldn't affect him, and with the Wonder Woman card, Leah would still possess his immense power. No problem, Clark and Diana both agreed. Leah nodded. Then please take care of Diana. I'll be back soon. I just said you value love over friendship. Clark gave a reassuring gesture, then he and Diana rushed towards Joel the Destroyer. A commercial van bearing the LexCorp logo sped along the streets of Metropolis. Mr. Lex, according to reliable information, the Destroyer has moved to the suburbs, and the Avenger, one of the two vigilantes who appeared in town, is currently battling him. After listening to the report from his mercenary, Tate, Lex sat in the back seat, crossed his legs, and stroked his chin thoughtfully. We had the technical department analyze the probability that the Avengers and the test subject are the same type of person. The probability is probably over 90%. Mr. Lex, the technical department studied the test subject's fatal wound, the one where the Avengers killed him with kryptonite. Given his supposed strength, a single strike would have killed the subject, yet he struck him 36 times. This means that kryptonite also weakens the Avengers. Lex interrupted mercenary Tate and continued. Yes, the data shows that kryptonite reduces the Avengers' strength to that of an ordinary person. Lex smiled. That's great news. Suddenly, the driver exclaimed, Mr. Lex, is that flying in the sky, the Avenger you're talking about? Everyone looked in the direction the driver pointed. Sure enough, a figure in a black bodysuit, the initials A, Avenger, emblazoned on their chest, flew from far to near. Lex narrowed his eyes and said with a hint of excitement, yes, that's him. Tate, get out a meteorite bazooka and test the weapon on the Avenger first. But, Mr. Lex, this Avenger seems to be on the human side. He was the one who defeated the experiment when it invaded the town, mercenary Tate said after a moment's hesitation. Lex sneered, the human side? Tate, I've heard the saying, those who are not of my kind must have different hearts. The Avenger might help humanity today, but can you guarantee he won't fly into the White House and break President O'Connor's neck tomorrow? At Lex's question, mercenary Tate's face darkened. Indeed, as a mercenary who worshipped strength, he understood better than anyone the principle that the bigger fist has the final say. If anyone thinks this saying no longer applies in modern society, it's because no one has ever been able to overturn the entire world with a single fist. But now, whether it's the Avengers, Superman, or their experiment, Joel the Destroyer, each of these individuals, appearing one after another, possesses the power to overturn the entire world. If they were to attempt to control this country, or even the world, the consequences would be disastrous. Mr. Lex, you're right. Mercenary Tate waved his hand, and several mercenaries alighted from the van. They unloaded a number of kryptonite-powered weapons from the trunk of the commercial van. The most conspicuous of these was a kryptonite-powered rocket launcher. Set up quickly. I'll fire. One of them half-crouched and placed the rocket launcher on his shoulder. Mercenary Tate quickly adjusted the aim based on Leah's speed and the prevailing wind direction and speed. Fire, whoosh. He pressed a launch button, and the kryptonite rocket shot out, whizzing towards Leah. In midair, Leah was speeding towards the town. His ears twitched, as if he heard an unusual sound. He turned and saw the rocket coming towards him. Oh my god, what's going on? He instinctively tried to dodge, but the moment the rocket had approached him, Leah felt as if his strength had been drained away. It was a feeling he was all too familiar with. Kryptonite. Shit, which idiot is behind this? Leah's weight shifted as he lost his strength. The next moment, the kryptonite rocket had struck him directly. With a loud boom, it exploded. The explosion didn't cause much damage to Leah, but after the kryptonite rocket had exploded, a thick green gas filled the air around him. It was powdered kryptonite. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49, The Darkness Within. Powdered kryptonite swirled around Li Yang, and with each breath, he inhaled large quantities of it. While inhaling a small amount wasn't fatal, it had a greater impact on Li Yang's strength than inhaling a lump of kryptonite. Cough cough, For a moment, Li Yang felt like he had a severe cold and a hangover. Not only was he extremely weak, but he also felt dizzy, as if he'd taken a 10-pound jump. We hit the target. It seems the technical department's analysis was correct. The green meteorite does affect the Avengers' powers. Look, he can't fly anymore and is falling from the sky, Mercenary Tate said to Lex, seemingly taking credit. Lex smiled, unsurprised. You did a great job. Let's go and recover our prey. With that, everyone got in the van. The driver started the van and hit the accelerator, heading towards Li Yang. The moment Li Yang fell from midair, he immediately accessed the system interface and unequipped the Superman card from the main slot. Instead, he equipped the Wonder Woman card from the secondary slot. He was surprised to discover that the Superman card was already emitting a faint golden glow. Although still a purple hero card, it was undoubtedly only one step away from becoming a gold legendary card plummeted to the ground. With the Wonder Woman card's blessing, Leah was no longer invulnerable to steel, but he could still withstand the fall from this height. Wonder Woman could actually fly, too. As a demigod, Diana only needed more practice to use her divine powers to defy gravity. The kryptonite powder is still in my lungs? What will happen if I equip the Superman card to the secondary slot? With a spirit of seeking death, Li Yang mentally equipped the Superman card to the secondary slot before the kryptonite in his system was expelled. The secondary card's effect took effect, instantly granting Leah a small portion of Superman's powers. Meanwhile, the kryptonite's influence on Leah was significantly reduced, practically negligible. By the time he'd finished, Lex's car had arrived in front of Leah. Lex gently opened the door, straightened his suit, and stepped out. Glancing at Leah, he spoke calmly, Avenger, some call you a god, but in my opinion, you're just as much a monster as the Destroyer. Leah slowly stood up, his eyes cold as he looked at Lex. Did you create the Destroyer? The surrounding mercenaries immediately drew their kryptonite-fired rifles and aimed them at Leah. If Leah moved, they would pull the trigger without hesitation. Unbeknownst to them, Leah was no longer immune to the kryptonite's influence. Mean the experimental subject? Strictly speaking, yes, I created it. Lex generously admitted his actions, his eyes suddenly turning icy cold. When people like you appear, humanity is no longer safe. Today it's this monster, tomorrow it could be you. Leah laughed dumbly. I killed him anyway, but you stole his body and turned him into this monster. You are responsible for this. Only short-sighted people would blame me. What I did was for the future of humanity. Today's incident was just an accident, but as long as monsters like you exist, humanity will never be truly safe, Lex said, signaling to the surrounding mercenaries. They understood and pulled the trigger at Li Yang. Their rifles spewed green flames, and kryptonite bullets rained down on Li Yang. Before, Leo would have been unable to dodge the kryptonite bullets. But now he had the Wonder Woman card equipped as his main card. While his strength and speed couldn't compare to the Superman card, it was more than enough to dodge these bullets. Swish! Leo pushed hard on his feet, his body catapulted out like a black cannonball. A barrage of kryptonite bullets could only reach his back. What? Impossible. Why wasn't he affected by the green meteorite? Seeing Leo effortlessly dodge the kryptonite bullets, everyone present was stunned. Lex, in particular, stared at Leo in disbelief. He couldn't understand. If kryptonite had no effect on Leo, Then how could a kryptonite rocket have blown him down from the sky? And now Leo was able to move at high speeds under the kryptonite bullets, seemingly unaffected. You're just playing us. No. He's still affected by the green meteorite, just not as severely as we thought. Otherwise, with his ironclad body, he wouldn't have needed to dodge. After a brief moment of shock, Lex keenly grasped the key point. Indeed, if his body was as strong as the Avengers showed in the video, even real bullets wouldn't be able to penetrate him, let alone kryptonite bullets. But Leo dodged, which proved that kryptonite bullets could indeed hurt him. Keep shooting. Kill him, Lex ordered the surrounding mercenaries. After hearing Lex's analysis, everyone suddenly understood, their fears greatly diminished. They weren't afraid of a strong opponent, they feared an opponent so powerful they couldn't be defeated. As long as they had a weakness, they had a chance of winning. Lea's mouth twitched. It had to be said that Lex Luthor's intelligence was truly exceptional. His analysis was incredibly close to the truth. He was indeed no longer the Man of Steel. Unfortunately, he had no knowledge of the friendship system, and even less of the fact that Leo was now a completely different person. Previously a son of Krypton, now a demigod. While the kryptonite bullets wouldn't do much damage to Leo, they still hurt. Swish. 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 Lea's gaze icy, the mercenaries shooting him, his body moving swiftly, his devastating attack followed. Though the mercenaries were skilled fighters, their skills proved useless against sheer power and speed. Bang. 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 A series of teeth-grinding blows, accompanied by the crackling of gunfire. Lex's vision flashed before his mercenaries were sent flying backwards, their snapping. A dark figure weapons appeared before him. It was none other than Leo, codenamed Avenger. Lex Luthor, can't you just live? Why are you courting death? Leo's tone was icy. He wouldn't kill anyone, but if he provoked someone, he wouldn't be a pushover. Seeing all his men were knocked down, Lex took a few steps back as if facing a great enemy. He drew out a long sword made of kryptonite, pointed at Leo, and said somewhat crazily, Avenger, you finally revealed your true face. Your heart is darker than you imagined. Admit it, you are also a monster. Leo was not afraid of the kryptonite sword in Lex's hand at all. If he could be killed by Lex with a sword, he would really deserve to die. He said to Lex with a half smile, everyone has a dark side in their heart, but many people dare not face it. However, the more they dare not face the darkness in their hearts, the more they will be swallowed by the darkness. P.S. When the previous chapter was posted, some readers did not understand why Lex wanted to be the enemy of the protagonist. They thought he could not be so stupid. The author is not sure what kind of image Lex has in your mind, but in the author's mind, Lex is a wealthy and powerful person. This is indeed the case in the United States. He has even been a senator and ran for president. If such a powerful person found that a superhuman who was invulnerable, could crush trucks like a ball, and was uncontrollable appeared in his world, would he allow such a person who destroyed the balance to exist? Don't talk about Lex, look at the movie. The government's initial attitude towards Superman was indiscriminate attack. In Batman, Superman, the president ordered a nuclear bomb to blow up Superman and Doomsday together, and I had to explain it over and over again. I really didn't blame Lex. It's like nuclear weapons, they should either be stored in a warehouse or never seen. If someone flew through the sky with a nuclear weapon, wouldn't the whole world panic? Superman, the protagonist, isn't he more powerful than a nuclear weapon? So let's end the controversy over Lex here. For your reading pleasure, I'll avoid similar mistakes in the future. Chapter 50, Right and Wrong. Lee was alluding to Lex himself with these words. It's undeniable that everyone has both good and evil within them. Of course, this refers to people with normal thinking abilities, not the insane or paranoid. Lex was no different, he possessed both light and darkness within him. It was only because of his father's so-called imperial upbringing that Lex's inner darkness grew ever stronger. He became increasingly paranoid, never confronting his own inner self, and attributed all his failures to necessary sacrifices along the way. Just like Joel, the destroyer, whom he had created this time, he believed he was doing it for the safety of all humanity. The failure of the experiment was merely an accident. Lex raised his kryptonite sword and struck a kendo stance, clearly a practice Lex had already mastered. He glared at Lee and declared, Avengers, the world can be a better place without you. With that, Lex roared and swung his sword at Lee. From a mortal's perspective, Lex's swordsmanship was already quite accomplished, the kind that would keep 4 or 5 large men at bay. But he wasn't facing a mere mortal, But Leia extended two fingers in front of him, and the moment the kryptonite sword descended, they snapped together. With a clang, Lex's kryptonite sword was grasped by Leia. Asshole! Seeing his sword gripped by Leia, Lex tried to pull it back with both hands, but no matter how hard he tried, it wouldn't budge. It was like a sword in a stone, sunk into the rock, impossible to extract. Lex, whose face had flushed crimson, smiled. Originally, whether you were a good guy or a bad guy is none of my business. But from the moment you attacked me, Lex Luthor, your life is over. We'll convince others that you're on the side of humanity. Lex's voice grew increasingly frantic. He had finally proven his fears, but at this moment, Lex's heart wavered. Was this really the right thing to do? However, right or wrong no longer mattered. From the moment he launched Project Destroyer, from the moment he chose to attack Lex, the outcome was sealed. Superheroes, led by Superman, adhered to the principle of not killing because they were seen as saviors. If a savior killed, they would fall from grace. But not Lex. Lex chose the codename Avenger because he had never considered himself a savior. Where there's light, there's always darkness. Superman, Batman, and other heroes are the light that illuminates people's hope, while Lee stands behind them as their shadow, or rather, the darkness. A green kryptonite sword thrust out. While kryptonite isn't as strong as steel, it's far harder than ordinary stone. With one thrust, it easily pierced Lex's chest. Lex, pierced through the chest by Lee's sword, whimpered and slowly fell to the ground. Lee indifferently drew out the kryptonite sword, brushed off the blood, and looked at the motionless Lex anyway. Thank you for the kryptonite weapon. With the kryptonite weapon Lee provided, Lee didn't need to fly to the town. He picked up the kryptonite sword scabbard and was surprised to find it was made of lead. A kryptonite sword alone wasn't enough. Lee also dug into the van and found two unused kryptonite rocket launchers. While their explosive power wasn't strong, they were extremely effective against Kryptonians. 2 kryptonite rockets should be enough to weaken the destroyer, Lee mused, then slung his kryptonite sword across his back and lifted the kryptonite rocket launcher. Putting on his Superman card again, Lee slowly ascended. Once high above, his gaze fell upon the commercial van. The next moment, 2 fiery red beams focused on the van's fuel tank. Boom! Detonated by Lea's heat vision, the fuel tank exploded, destroying the entire van and the kryptonite weapons within. Only then did Leia turn and fly towards Clark and Diana. Clark and his men were still engaged in a fierce battle, leaving the suburbs in ruins, as if struck by an earthquake or the end of the world. The two sides engaged in a fierce struggle of brute force. Sensing Leia approaching, Clark's face lit up with delight. Leia, you're finally here. Well, Clark, get out of the center. Leia approached the battlefield, pulled out his kryptonite bazooka, aimed his crosshairs at Joel the Destroyer, and unleashed 2 volleys. 2 shrieking kryptonite rockets pierced the air and blasted towards Joel the Destroyer. Without a word, Clark leaped up and swiftly fled the scene. Bang! Bang! The kryptonite rockets exploded, creating a cloud of thick green smoke around Joel the Destroyer, inhaling a large amount of kryptonite dust. As expected, the Destroyer was enveloped in a thick green haze from the 2 kryptonite rockets. This made him extremely uncomfortable. He tried to move, but when he lifted his feet, he felt powerless. Roar! 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 Under the influence of the kryptonite haze, the Destroyer staggered like a drunkard before collapsing with a thud. Gulps of kryptonite dust, which entered his body through his respiratory tract and continuously affected his cells. Great, Leia. Where did you get this stuff? Clark looked at Leia with a strange expression. I'll explain it to you when I get back. Help me hold him down first. With that, Leia drew the kryptonite sword from his back and rushed towards the weakened Destroyer, Joel. Clark and Diana understood what he was saying. One stepped forward and grabbed Joel's arm, while the other swung out the lasso of truth, binding him securely. Leia leaped up and slashed with his sword. As the kryptonite sword approached, Clark was more or less affected, but he still gritted his teeth and tried his best to prevent Joel the Destroyer from breaking free. The next moment, a flash of cold green light passed, and the kryptonite sword slashed across Joel the Destroyer's neck, and in an instant, his head fell to the ground. Leia did not stop, feeling that simply chopping off Joel the Destroyer's head was not enough. He swung the kryptonite sword in his hand and pierced the opponent's heart. Without the 2 most important organs, the head and heart, even the Destroyer, who had a strong vitality, gradually lost his vitality. After all, He did not have the abnormal recovery ability of Wolverine and Deadpool. As the longsword slipped back into its lead sheath, Clark's weakness suddenly vanished. Regaining his strength, he said to Lee, "He won't recover now, will he?" "That's true, but let's be safe. We need to burn his body," Lee suggested. After all, Joel the Destroyer carried a trace of Doomsday's genes, and he couldn't allow anyone with ulterior motives to exploit his cells. Therefore, burning them all was the safest option. Clark naturally didn't object. Together, he and Lee used their heat vision to gradually consume Joel the Destroyer's cells, until they were reduced to ash. With the Destroyer completely dead, Lee breathed a long sigh of relief. He patted Clark on the shoulder and said, "Let's go back to town. Your parents have been nagging you these past 3 months. Come home and tell them you're safe." Clark felt a pang of guilt at the mention of his adoptive parents. Lee then embraced Diana, and together they flew to town. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.